Chapter 677. Yi Er did not start the car. He waved the results in his hand. Could it be Ouyang Sheng? Impossible. Impossible. Qin Fian and Zhua Hao said at the same time. Yi Er twitched his lips. Am I too simple-minded? Ouyang Sheng wants to marry Ouyang Yan to my brother. But if my brother is ruined, it will be meaningless to them. Furthermore, Ouyang Sheng is asking my grandfather to transfer funds to him. Even if he wants to touch my brother, he will need to wait for some time. Qin Fian analyzed. Yi Er frowned and sighed. Where are we going now? Qin Fian leaned back in his chair. We do not know much about diamonds. But I know the boss of Bandung. Let's go and look for him. Their appraisers will take a look at the diamonds again. Most of the brands will have some special features. Their appraisers might be able to tell at a glance. Once they find the brand and the sales slip, they will be out. Then let's go. In the private room of Zhao Jun, Zhuang Yichen was sitting on the sofa. He was shaking the dice cup slowly. The sound of the dice cups hitting against each other could be heard. It was as if an unknown object was walking in the middle of the night. The indoor elevator door opened with a ding sound. The person who came out of the elevator was the current mayor, Chen Tong. Zhuang Yichen tilted his head and did not get up. Chen Tong walked towards him, and he only smiled at him. Chen Tong's expression was a little ugly. Zhuang Yichen usually treated him like a taboo and spoke nicely to him. At this time, he was sitting there as steady as a mountain and only greeted him with a smile. He was clearly putting on a superior attitude. The private room was quiet, and the atmosphere was heavy. There were only dim lights, and it was empty. Mayor Chen, you are so busy. Zhuang Yichen continued to shake his dice. Have a seat. Chen Tongguan was in a high position. Zhuang Yichen's sudden elevation at this time made him very uncomfortable. He was at a loss of what to do. Moreover, he was invited here today, and he was also very unwilling. As for Zhuang Yichen, the only person he truly respected and accepted as a friend was Jiang Zhao. When a man wanted to do business, he had to first choose the right partner. Just like a business marriage, he had to consider the other family's business projects and understand the strength behind the other family. Although Jiang Zhao was only a deputy mayor, his family's power was unshakable. Jiang Zhao was a self-disciplined person, and he would not easily get involved in any dirty dealings. If Jiang Zhao became partners with someone like this, as long as nothing happened to him, the other party's ship would be a good ship. Jiang Zhao could ride the wind and break through the waves. Obviously, Zhuang Yichen did not respect Chen Tong. Although Chen Tong was the mayor and was also a member of the standing committee, if someone from the top wanted to mess with him, those who were close to him would stay away from him. Unlike Jiang Zhao, if something happened to him, his entire family would not sit back and do nothing. Chen Tong had never been on the same side as Jiang Zhao. Now that Jiang Zhao was in trouble, Chen Tong was more interested than anyone else to know the reason behind it. He might even know about it a long time ago. But he still chose to avoid meeting with Zhuang Yichen. Manager Zhuang, you are so free to come here to play dice in broad daylight. It's fine. You also know that I am free. If I don't play dice, what else can I do? Zhuang Yichen raised his hand and gestured to the stool opposite him. Although the lighting in the private room was not good, Zhuang Yichen could still see Chen Tong's expression. He smiled coldly. Have a seat, Mayor Chen. If Zhuang Yichen smiled coldly, his aura would be intimidating. Usually, when he was doing business, people would only say that he was cool and did not like to smile. But at this moment, Chen Tong felt a sense of fear. But as a government official, he had been through a lot and was not afraid of a businessman. Zhuang Yichen took out the paper bag beside him and took out the photos of a man and a woman entangling with each other. The photos were scattered all over the table. He said, Mayor Chen, you have good stamina. You are busy in the day, and you are also busy at night. Chen Tong looked at the photos on the table and was shocked. Zhuang Yichen. Mayor Chen, you like to stand? But I don't like to look up when I am talking to people. Zhuang Yichen lowered his head and opened the dice cup. He stretched out his long fingers and started to play with the dice. Chen Tong took a deep breath and sat down angrily. I want to know what happened to Mayor Jiang. How can I know? The Commission for Discipline Inspection had always been very strict when it comes to cases. Oh, then where did I hear about this from? How will I know? Chen Tong was not happy with Zhuang Yichen's attitude. Zhuang Yichen shook his head and sighed. The women in these photos are really beautiful. This little Monroe's real name is Chen Lu. She is 22 years old and is from High City's Jing County. Her parents are farmers, and when the government was building a highway, her house was demolished. She had received a sum of compensation for the demolition, but it was not enough to buy a villa in High City suburbs. So, she could only look for Mayor Chen. Chen Tong was also someone who thought he was good at dealing with government officials. But at this moment, he was shocked. This was not just a matter of style. He was the one who paid for Chen Lu's villa in the suburbs. How can a mayor like him suddenly take out so much money to buy a villa? There must be corruption involved. The person in charge of investigating Jiang Zhao's case is Secretary Zhang from the Commission for Discipline Inspection. I received news that someone had reported Jiang Zhao for accepting bribes. Zhuang Yichen interrupted, I know all about this. But I want to know the details. For example, behind the scenes. The people Jiang Zhao had offended are not his political opponents. They are the tycoons of High City. Because... Chen Tong did not want to say more. Just say it. Don't hide the truth. Your future is much more important than the other tycoons. After all, if I spread these photos and find the witnesses, you will die faster. But if you tell me what I want to know, I can even help others if they want to harm you. If Chen Tong still did not know that Zhuang Yichen and Jiang Zhao were in cahoots, he would be too stupid. Sometimes, it was very irrational to not be on the same side. Now that there was such a big threat in front of him, and it would not be less than Jiang Zhao's case, he had to consider changing his direction. He could only choose the lesser of two evils. He could only go along with Zhuang Yichen's idea and said, that person had approached me. He wanted me to help in this matter. It would be best if Jiang Zhao could not get out of trouble. If Jiang Zhao could not get out of trouble, it would be good for me. Zhuang Yichen smiled and looked at Chen Tong. I am not interested in how you are going to deal with Jiang Zhao. I just want to know which tycoon is behind this. This. Chen Tong swallowed his saliva. I can't say. Did you receive benefits? No. Zhuang Yichen laughed loudly. It's normal to receive benefits. In this economic society, receiving benefits is also to make things easier. I have never rejected receiving benefits and giving benefits. Zhuang Yichen paused and looked at Chen Tong with a meaningful smile. Chen Tong licked his lips. If he still dares to accept benefits from Zhuang Yichen, then he would be an idiot. This person was the type of person who would swallow people whole. If he was not confident, he would not threaten him so confidently. Zhuang Yichen said, Mayor Chen, in our society, there are no eternal friends or eternal enemies. That tycoon might be your friend yesterday, but after a while, he will become your enemy. Do you think the Jiang and Qin families are pushovers? It was fine if the truth could not be uncovered. But it was impossible for the truth to not be uncovered. The girl who gave Mrs. Jiang the gift was Zhengling. She was Mrs. Jiang's classmate, and Mrs. Jiang had helped her a lot. It was easy for people to do stupid things when they are confused. But what if she regrets her actions one day and confesses? What will happen to the grasshopper on the rope? If Mayor Chen does not get rid of this rope as soon as possible, the Jiang and Qin families might throw this rope into the fire and burn it to ashes. What should we do then? Chen Tong's line of reasoning was broken by Zhuang Yichen, but he still stood his ground. As a government official, how can he achieve great things if he gives in when he is threatened? Also, if that family was exposed, he would also be exposed. There are too many implications. Zhuang Yichen nodded in agreement. Mayor Chen was right. But the Qin family was the most powerful family in Haicheng, and no one knew which family had the guts to do this. Everyone knew that old Master Qin doted on his grandson as if he was his direct grandson. Old Master Qin had publicly announced that other than his direct grandson, his other two grandsons would also get to enjoy his inheritance. Think about it, which wealthy family in Haiqing would treat their grandsons as if they were their direct grandsons? Jiang Zhao and Zhua Hao are exceptions. I am afraid that Jiang Zhao had suffered a lot this time. But he is not afraid of suffering. The Jiang family has always been strict, and he has been suffering since he was young. But I am afraid that the Jiang and Qin families will not be willing to accept this injustice. Now I am very interested to see which wealthy family Mayor Chen is relying on. How are they going to fight with the Jiang and Qin families? A wealthy family with such a big red door. In the entire eastern region, the Jiang and Qin families and the Jiang and Wen families are the most powerful families. In Jiangzhou, no one dares to touch Jiang Zhao, Jiang Feng, and Jiang Ji. Do you think that in Haiqing, there is someone who dares to touch Jiang Zhao? Chen Tong's psychological defense was completely broken. He asked in a deep voice, "How are you going to protect me?" Zhuang Yichen suddenly understood and smiled. "You are not involved in this, right?" "Yes, I am not involved." "That's good. How can a mayor who is not involved in anything be implicated?" Although Chen Tong did not dare to trust Zhuang Yichen anymore, Zhuang Yichen's words were like a sharp knife that cut open the rotten corpse inch by inch and scraped out the bones. His purpose was to see the bloody and cruel consequences. He could not afford to lose. In the past, he wanted to suppress Jiang Zhao. But after Zhuang Yichen reminded him, he finally gave up that dream. He sighed. "Zhichang. Come and see." Hongcha 866. Chapter 678. When Chen Tong left, he didn't get any promises from Zhuang Yichen on how to protect him. He kept twisting and twisting, revealing his weakness. The current situation made him very passive. Qin Fian had just contacted the boss of Bandung when Zhuang Yichen called. "Fian, it's me. Yichen. Put the clues on Hu Jinchang. He was the one who started this." "Are you sure?" "Yes, I heard it from Chen Tong. But if you have a more accurate clue, don't miss it. Don't let go of this opportunity. It's best if we can make it happen." "Okay." It was time for Jiang Zhao's lunch break. He went back to the break room and lay down to sleep. He didn't have any work or trivial matters for the past 2 days. He quietly thought about some things and sorted them out one by one. Before he was investigated, his father had told him that the photos and rumors with Ouyang Yan were done by Ouyang Sheng. Actually, when he heard this news, he wasn't shocked. The reason why he wasn't shocked wasn't because he knew it was done by Ouyang Yan, but because he felt that it was good that it happened. Now that he thought about it, Yi Er had just gotten better and his head was injured, and he went to hold a press conference. At that time, he felt that he was more or less being used. Now that he thought about it, if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have been able to provoke Yi Er. It was quite good. Now that the two of them had a good relationship, nothing else mattered. Whatever scandals, credit cards, caught in bed, it was all in the past. It was all in the past. But since there was a word to calculate, then just like what he said to Ouyang Sheng, calculate it clearly. Calculate it clearly so that it would be easier to collect debts. He thought about many people who had trapped him in the bribery ring. Chen Tong. Ouyang Sheng. Even Zhou Li. In his eyes, he had never thought of Zhou Li as a good person. When Yi Er wasn't around, he didn't even want to say the word mom. How was that woman worthy of being Yi Er's mother? It was probably because she couldn't get the custody back, so she did it on purpose. However, he wasn't in a hurry. He really wasn't in a hurry. Too many things had happened in the past few months, one after another. Instead of waiting for him to find clues, it was better to wait until he was about to die and see who would pop up. The person who popped up might not necessarily be the one who put him in the trap of bribery, but he would definitely be at odds with him. Sooner or later, he would go against him. When that time came, he would reel in the net together. However, she did not know how Yi Er was doing. She had no way of contacting him. When he calmed down, he really missed her. Jiang Zhao lay on the bed. When he closed his eyes, Yi Er wormed its way into his brain. Inside the CEO's office at Xi Empire, Xi Jintian was talking to old Master Jiang on the phone. "Old man, why did you come to High City again? Come out for dinner tonight." "What? No time? Old fart, you came to see City and didn't even eat with me. You dare to say that you're not free? Do you want to die? Cut the crap. Let me tell you, it's just us old guys for dinner tonight. Don't call the young people over. You really dare?" Xi Jintian suddenly changed his agitated tone. "Old Jiang, did something happen? Why did you come over if nothing happened? It has something to do with Zhao Zhao, right? You only have one grandson in High City. If Zhao Zhao hadn't gotten into trouble, would I have thought that you came over because you missed me? Okay, I'm hanging up. I'll contact you another day when you're done with your matters." Unwu raised his head when he heard the two words, Zhao Zhao, until Xi Jintian hung up the phone. "Grandpa, did something happen to Jiang Zhao?" "I don't know what happened yet. Old Jiang refuses to say now. He said that we'll have dinner together in a few days. Aren't you guys on good terms? Why didn't he tell you? He's afraid that I'll worry if I find out. Grandpa, why don't we pay a visit to the Qin residence tonight?" Unwu asked expectantly. "Brat, are you hoping that something will happen to Jiang Zhao so that you can covet other people's women?" "Grandpa." Unwu felt bored. He just yelled and lowered his head to do his work. "Hurry up and arrange a meeting with the daughters of High City. You can put aside the engagement. I don't want to get married. I'll be single for the rest of my life." "You," Xi Jintian said resentfully. "You're making your grandpa angry because of someone else's woman. You'll be very happy when I die one day." "Jianichang," Yi Er said. When he heard Qin Fian say that there was a mastermind behind the scenes, he was so shocked that he couldn't say anything. Zhua Hao said, "Sister-in-law, he seems to be a relative of the Yun family, right?" Yi Er stopped the car by the roadside. "Haozi, you drive. I'm not very focused. I'm afraid that I'll drive the wrong way." "Okay." Yi Er and Zhua Hao both unbuckled their seatbelts, opened the car door, and changed seats. Yi Er sat in the front passenger seat and stared blankly ahead. "Jianichang is my father's cousin. According to seniority, we're both in the Shi generation. When I was young, I called him uncle." Qin Fian sat in the back seat and asked with interest, "But if he's really the mastermind behind this, why?" Yi Er pursed his lips. "He can't have children anymore and doesn't have any children. He's trying to get custody of Si Jie." Zhua Hao was surprised. How could he want custody of Si Jie? Si Jie has an older sister and a father. It can't be his turn, right? Yi Er leaned his head against the pillow and felt a little weak. "But if my father is in jail and I don't have a good income, Jianichang is Si Jie's uncle and Zhou Yan is Si Jie's aunt. Do you think it'll be difficult to get custody of Si Jie?" Zhua Hao nodded. "So, right now, my brother is the biggest stumbling block. Because of my brother's ability, he can't snatch Si Jie's custody rights, but once my brother collapses, no one will dare to take responsibility for Uncle Yun's matters. Then, when the time comes, he'll have a greater chance of winning." Yi Er knew that Zhua Hao's analysis was right. Many things overlapped. Ever since Zhou Li came to ask for custody, Zhou Yan, who represented Jianichang, never appeared again. Was it a coincidence? Or was it that the few of them had something to do with each other? He had really become a huge burden. The intertwined roots were all because of his family, which had caused Jiang Zhao to become like this. Yi Er felt like there were thorns in his heart. When he breathed, his organs would not touch the thorns in his heart. It was very painful. "Sister-in-law, don't you think there's something very strange?" Qin Fian asked as he wiped the rims of his glasses with a handkerchief. Yi Er came back to his senses and tilted his head. His voice was behind him, but he did not turn around. What? Qin Fian lowered his head and wiped the rims of his glasses. His eyes were bright and full of wisdom. When the corners of his mouth curled up, there was a slight hint of mockery. Jianichang and Si Jie don't have much of a relationship. Just because they're cousins, he wants Si Jie's custody at all costs. You have to know that Si Jie is no longer a baby. It's impossible to dig out the memories of a 10-year-old child. We still have the beautiful and painful memories of our childhood. If this battle is fought on a grand scale, won't it leave a scar on Si Jie's heart? And from an emotional point of view, how could Si Jie be willing to follow his uncle and not his older sister? Even if Jianichang wins the lawsuit, would Si Jie be a good son? If that's the case, wouldn't he be raising a tiger and inviting calamity? Even if he can't have children, he can find a hospital or an orphanage and adopt a healthy baby boy. It won't be a big problem at all. Wouldn't it be better to have a baby who doesn't have the memories of his childhood? The thought that Yi Er didn't want to face in his heart circled around in his mind again. He suddenly realized that his family was becoming uglier and uglier in front of outsiders. If that was really the case, what would Zhang Zhao think of him? What would he think of Si Jie? What would he think of Dad? Yi Er's eyes became blurry with tears. He calmed himself down and said after a while, I don't know what he's thinking either. Sister-in-law, I think we shouldn't look for Jianichang now. We should look for your mother. Why? Yi Er suddenly turned around and looked at Qin Fian in the back seat in surprise. Qin Fian put the frame back on his face and smiled faintly. The first thing we need to do now is to find out the owner of this diamond. I think your mother might know. Like Housie said, women love these things. It's in their nature. Maybe she knows some gossip. Qin Fian didn't dare to be sure of his thoughts, but it was really unbelievable that Jianichang was willing to go against the Jiang and Qin families at all costs. It should be known that even if Ouyang Xing hated Zhang Zhao to the core, he wouldn't dare to be so heavy-handed in such a short period of time. Unless what? Unless Zhang Zhao destroyed Jianichang's interests above all else. Yi Er didn't want to prove it, but she couldn't give up any chance to save Zhang Zhao. For every second she avoided, Zhang Zhao would suffer for another second. At this moment, Yi Er was in pain. Qin Fian wanted to take her to prove a cruel fact, a fact that Si Jie was closely related to Jianichang. Maybe it wasn't the truth, she comforted herself. Maybe it was only because they were cousins with a little blood relation that Jianichang had that kind of hope. In the tea house, 4 people sat at a square table. Zhou was wearing a pair of big-toed glasses, but it still couldn't cover the bruises on her face. Yi Er deliberately didn't look. Qin Fian was a businessman. He could treat anything he sat down to talk about as business. Some business could be done in a roundabout way, while some business needed to be done directly. He stretched out his arm and put the photo and appraisal report in his hand in front of Zhou, who was sitting on his left. His smile was casual and devilish. Aunt Zhou, it took a lot of effort to take off such a beautiful diamond. It's 9 carats. If the diamond was lost, it wouldn't be as easy to find the ring. Zhou looked at the photo in front of her and was stunned. At this moment, she suddenly raised her head and looked at Qin Fian, who had a calm expression on his face. Her heart was beating so fast that it was as if she had heard a ghost in the quiet night. Her feet under the table trembled irregularly. Awesome novel, Hongcha 866. Chapter 679. Although Yi Er avoided looking at Zhou Li's injury in detail, the tea house was made of wooden floors. Zhou Li's exquisite high heels landed on the floor. Because her feet were trembling nervously, the heels of her shoes bounced lightly on the wooden floor with messy, tap 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 tap, sounds. The sound. Yi Er could not help but look over. He saw that Zhou Li's hand was already looking at the photo of the naked diamond. Her lips were trembling non-stop, but she did not speak. Yi Er closed his eyes again and listened to the sound of the guzheng strings echoing in the high-end tea house. But all of this was nothing compared to the sound of Zhou Li's heavy breathing that poured into his ears. I don't know what you mean. Zhou Li threw the photo away as if throwing away a hot potato. Is that so? Zhua Hao was wearing an intimidating military uniform. His fingertips were drawing circles on the edge of the cup as he asked leisurely, Actually, I'm just curious. How could such a high-quality South African large-carat diamond be so neglected? What a pity. The scratches on it can't be cleaned up by going to a store for maintenance. Even if you sell it second-hand, it won't be worth the price it used to be. What are you talking about? I don't understand at all. Zhou Li stood up. Zhua Hao immediately stood up. His height and the aura of the military uniform scared Zhou Li so much that she took a small step back. She knocked into the chair and immediately fell back down. You don't understand? You ordered Jingling to send a fruit basket with stolen goods in it. You still say you don't understand? Do you want me to provide you with the history of this diamond from its birth to its end? How nice would it be if you sent 101-carat diamonds? It wouldn't be easy to investigate. Why do you have to send such a large amount and such a high-quality one? Don't you know that the rarer something is, the more valuable it is? Rare and expensive things are always easy to investigate. Do you understand? Zhou Li was a little woman who had not experienced big things. When faced with threats and provocations, she quickly couldn't stand it. The reason she came out was that Yi Er said that he was willing to talk to her about Si Jie's custody. He said that now that something had happened at home, she would consider letting go of Si Jie's custody. Yuan Shichang was pressing hard. Of course, it would be best if Yi Er was willing to let go of the custody at this time. However, she never expected that he would not come to talk about custody, but to ask about the diamond. She still clearly remembered that Yuan Shichang had taken out the ring that he had given her. In the beginning, he had used a sharp knife to pry it open around the diamond holder. Later, he had even found a pair of sharp pliers to twist the diamond holder. He had been so wild and had even said that she did not deserve his gift. He could have taken it to the shop to get it, but he didn't want to. He destroyed it himself. She knew he was furious with her. All these years, he had never treated her like this. Because of their son's custody, he had quarreled with her time and time again. The matter of framing Jiang Zhao had been decided a long time ago. If they still refused to let go of the custody, it would have to be carried out. Yuan Shichang was a careful person. He knew that it would be difficult to set a trap for Jiang Zhao. However, Yi Er had a good friend called Zhengling who quickly found out. Zhengling's mother was greedy and snobbish, so she was quickly hooked up with someone and won a lot of money. Later on, even though she lost a lot of money, she kept trying to recoup her losses. She kept borrowing money from loan sharks. In the end, the amount was so large that even if Zhengling sold the studio, he would not be able to pay it back. Moreover, Yuan Shichang's motive was not for Zhengling's mother to pay the money back, but to use all means to threaten Zhengling. If he wanted to keep Zhengling's mother intact, Zhengling would definitely betray Yi Er. There was only one choice. According to their thinking, now that Yi Er and Jiang Zhao had feelings for each other, if something happened to Jiang Zhao, Yi Er would take the blame for Jiang Zhao. The only way to not implicate Jiang Zhao was to quietly get a divorce. As long as they were related, they could even adjust the system time to the day before the divorce. The Qin family had the ability to do so. However, Yi Er did not get a divorce. Instead, she came looking for them. You want me to go to jail? Zhou Li did not answer Zhua Hao's question. Instead, she blurted out a sentence without rhyme or reason. To prevent her hands from trembling, she gripped the armrest of the wooden chair tightly. Her sunglasses covered her eyes, but her voice was filled with panic. Are you sending me to jail? Yi Er suddenly opened her eyes. She realized a problem. It was not Si Jie's problem, but if this was really Yuan Shichang's doing, and if Zhou Li was also involved, and Jiang Zhao returned home safely, then besides Zhengling and Yuan Shichang, Zhou Li would also be in jail. She had once called her by her name. Zhou Li, leave. Don't ever appear in front of me again. At that time, she really did not want to see this woman again. However, she had messed up her life and caused her father to be hospitalized and in a coma. She had a good life, but she did not want to live it. She just had to disturb her father's peace. Not wanting to see her forever did not mean that she wanted to send her to jail. It was fine as long as she lived a good life in another corner of the world. Jiang Zhao had once said angrily that such a mother was not worthy of being a mother. She also knew that such a mother was not worthy. But they had lived together for 17 years since they were young. There were too many memories that she could not let go of. If she could let go of them, she would not have cried so sadly when she said those words to Zhou Li outside her father's emergency room. Zhou Li, I want to know what you used to threaten Jingling. Zhou Li heard Yi Er call her name in front of Zhuahao and Qin Fian. Zhuahao was slightly surprised, but Qin Fian did not seem surprised. Zhou Li sat up a little straighter and lowered her head. Her voice was soft and panicked. Her mother owes a huge amount of gambling money. Her photography studio and house have been foreclosed. All of her savings and Lu Cheng's money have been taken away. In order to save her mother's hands and feet, Yi Er bit her lip. No one could hear her crying. They only saw her face covered in tears. She did not speak. When she spoke, she sobbed. As Yi Er bit her lip, she felt that the taste on her tongue was no longer salty. She was angry. Qin Fian pulled out a tissue in a panic. He opened Yi Er's mouth and wiped the blood on her lips for her. Sister-in-law, calm down. Yi Er stood up and stared at Zhou Li, who was sitting down. She smiled sadly. Calm down? How can I calm down? How can there be mothers like you in this world? How can there be mothers like you? If it's not gambling, it's chaos. Why did you give birth to a child? Why did you give birth to a child? When you gave birth, why didn't you strangle the child to death? This was what Yi Er was thinking at this moment. She thought about why Zhou Li didn't just strangle her to death back then. In order to save her mother's hands and feet, Zheng Ling chose to betray her friend. Even if her mother ruined her career and family beyond recognition, she could only be used by others. Because there was no time to think of a solution, there was no extra. She had so much time to think of a solution. Even Lu Cheng's money had been taken away. What kind of mother was she? And this mother of hers was even more ridiculous. Her son and daughter could have lived together without any worries for Wu Yu, but she had to destroy it for her own selfish desires. She destroyed it so naturally. With just a sentence, I have my reasons, she completely destroyed it. Ever since Zhou Li was scolded by Yi Er last time, she felt guilty every time she thought about it. She did not even dare to look Yi Er in the eye. When Yi Er said such heartbroken words, she could not help but cover her face and cry. Yi Er, I didn't want things to be like this either. I've said so many times that I only want Si Jie's custody. I only want Si Jie's custody, but you refused to give it to me. If you had given up Si Jie's custody earlier, none of this would have happened. Are you blaming me? Yi Er's smile was full of pain. Qin Fian kept rubbing tissue on Yi Er's face. Then he pressed down on her shoulders and asked her to sit down. Logically speaking, he and Zhuahao should stay away from such family matters, but he felt that Yi Er was family. Zhou Li's actions were not family. If a family member was bullied, what would they do? All he could do was to stay there in silence. You should have told me earlier why you were so insistent on snatching Si Jie's custody. If you had told me clearly, I would have considered it. I would have tried to find a compromise to resolve this matter. But have you told me anything? You didn't. From the beginning to the end. You lied to me. You lied to me, and you still blame me. Other than saying that you have your reasons, what else did you say? You hid so many things from me. Who can you blame? Yi Er's agitated voice became louder and louder. The originally quiet tea room suddenly became a tea house. Zhuahao immediately got up and asked the waiter to bring a screen to block the scene of the quarrel. He also instructed the second floor not to arrange for anyone to come up. Jolie was stunned for a moment. She immediately ran over to Yi Er, who was sitting opposite her. She grabbed Yi Er's hand and said, "Yi Er, tell mommy. Tell mommy. Do you want to send mommy to jail because of Jiang Zhao? Do you want mommy to go to jail?" Huh? Jolie took the glasses off her face. Yi Er saw a shocking scar on the bridge of her nose and around her eyes. It was already very swollen and badly bruised. When she frowned, Jolie suddenly knelt in front of Yi Er and sobbed, "Yi Er, don't send mommy to jail. Mommy promises that it won't happen again. Yi Er, I beg you. Don't send mommy to jail. Mommy loves you very much, very much." Yi Er hated it when Jolie knelt in front of her. She hated it. Jolie knelt down and kept saying that she was her mother and that she loved her. She kept reminding her that the person who knelt on the ground and begged her was her mother. God had played a big joke on her. It was said that fate was arranged by God. But one day, when someone asked her who she should save when her husband and mother fell into the river, should God come out and tell her what she should do? Yi Er realized that she was a useless person. Previously, she had already cut ties with Jolie and said that she would never see her again. But from the moment she saw this woman today, she could not calm down. When she found out that she was also involved in Jiang Zhao's case, she hated herself even more for not having an abortion when she was still in her mother's womb. She never wanted to see the sun like this again. She saw her mother kneeling in front of her, crying and begging for mercy. She thought of her husband's unknown situation. At this moment, she was like a person who had walked into a desert. A vulture was circling above her head. Just as she was about to fall, the hunter swooped down and pushed her to the ground. His hook-like mouth pecked down hard. His target was her heart. Then, he tore and gnawed. She lay on the ground and watched helplessly as her body was gnawed into a bloody mess. Qin Fian gave Zhua Hao a look. If this was really done by Yuan Shichang and Jolie, covering up for Jolie would mean covering up for Yuan Shichang. If the mastermind did not come out, Jiang Zhao's case might be cleared. This was a big deal. Welfare, Songshu 566. Chapter 680. Zhua Hao knew that Qin Fian did not like to argue with women. At this moment, he strode over and used his strong physique to pick Jolie up from the ground. "Aunt Zhou, you should be thinking about how to explain yourself instead of begging sister-in-law. To put it bluntly, my brother was wronged in this matter, but Yuan Shichang was not. If Yuan Shichang is not found out, my brother will be wronged for the rest of his life. Not to mention the small matter of losing his official position, that 9-carat diamond is enough to sentence him to a very heavy sentence." Yi Er finally came to her senses after hearing Zhua Hao's threatening and reminding words. Nothing must happen to Jiang Zhao. Nothing must happen to Jiang Zhao. If Jiang Zhao collapsed, not only would she lose her pillar of support, the entire family's pillar of support would also be gone. Yuan Shichang should go to jail. If he went to jail, no one would come to snatch her brother away. She did not care about those rotten relationships. She only knew that Si Jia was her brother from the moment he was born. They had been together for 10 years. From the first time she taught him to call her sister, this brother was destined to be hers. Yi Er swayed her body and turned to run away. Qin Fian chased after her and asked Zhua Hao to restrain Jolie. Jolie shouted for Yi Er. When Yi Er heard Jolie's shout, she ran even faster. Qin Fian chased after Yi Er and pulled her to the side of the car. He took out the key to open the car door and pushed her into the passenger seat. He sat in the driver's seat and said, "You have to face it sooner or later. Why are you running?" Yi Er leaned on the dashboard in the passenger seat and cried uncontrollably. Qin Fian was a little moved by the sadness in her sobs. "It's a little cruel. I don't want to face it. Sister-in-law, but you are my brother's wife. You are the granddaughter-in-law of the Jiang and Qin families. It's not that we want to teach you to forget your mother after you have a husband, but you clearly know who caused my brother to become like this. My brother did not do anything to let your mother down. You have to be fair. Yi Er. She was still leaning on the dashboard and sobbing as she said, I know, Fian, but you can't understand how I feel now. How could she share such feelings with others and let others understand? How could he empathize with someone who was not born in this situation? Qin Fian nodded. Yes, I can understand because this matter didn't happen to me. Because I have a deep relationship with my brother, but not with Zhou. You, my brother and Zhou, but you have a different relationship. But I'm sure you know this is different. It is not that I want you to dism's words. Not, I to, it's not to disown, I. If it, I, to, I, if to. Li to, it. To be a. Yi Er kept sobbing as she said, I know. Pain is inevitable. Now you have to understand that if my brother can't be countered, then he really did take bribes. Sister-in-law, I'm not trying to threaten you, nor am I trying to use anything to pressure you. Think about it yourself. If my brother goes to jail, it won't be good for the whole family. Let's just talk about Uncle Yun and Si Jia. If Zhou is fine outside, will she treat them well? She can't be as dedicated as my brother. After a long while, Yi Er sat up and sighed. Fian, don't say any more. Help me deal with this matter. I won't get involved, okay? But if Zhou is really an accomplice, can you consider? I'll think of a way. Thank you. Because of Zhuang Yichen's intervention, Zhua Hao, and Qin Fian's help, as well as Qin Rongfang and Elder Zhang's secret help, Yuan Shichang and Zheng Ling were interrogated and investigated. Zheng Ling confessed, but said that this matter had nothing to do with Lu Qing. She had been cheating Lu Qing of his money to pay off her mother's gambling debts. What was even more surprising was that Yuan Shichang also insisted that this matter had nothing to do with Zhou. He said that he didn't know anything about it. Zhou even got slapped a few times for defending Yi Er. When Zhou found out about this, she cried until she fainted. She always thought that Yuan Shichang hated her and would send her to jail with him. But he took all the blame alone. Qin Fian had promised Yi Er that he would help Zhou think of a solution. If Yuan Shichang took all the blame, then he couldn't be bothered to take care of it. It would save everyone a lot of trouble. Chang Li's concubine. Yuan Shichang forced Jingling to frame him. His crime was serious and he was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Because Jingling's attitude was good, Yi Er didn't ask for an appeal. The original sentence was 5 years with 1 year of probation. If the Yuan family got involved in other lawsuits, they might have a chance to turn the tables. But the people they provoked were the Jiang and Qin families. They could have been sentenced to only 5 years, but their connections didn't work. Instead, the sentence of 10 years was reduced to 20 years. As for the Yuan family, once Yuan Shichang fell, they would basically fall. Many companies would have loans, and the Yuan family was no exception. Zhou Yan wanted to turn the tables, but she was being pushed to her death step by step. She couldn't do anything, and there was no way out. Soon, the bank came knocking on their door. At this time, all the shareholders who were related to them wanted to get a share of the profits. Soon, the Yuan family fell into chaos. The assets were quickly seized and auctioned off by the bank. 9 days. This was a record for the speed of the fall of a wealthy family in Haicheng. And the person who secretly pushed this record was Jiang Zhao. Jiang Zhao had just been cleared of suspicion, so it was normal. On the day of work, he arranged for people from the Industry and Commerce Bureau and the Tax Bureau to conduct a large-scale investigation of the Yuan family. The newspapers quickly reported the suspicious accounts of the Yuan family every day. They pointed out that the Yuan family had always been suspected of falsifying accounts to deceive shareholders. They also exaggerated the news of Yuan Shichang's imprisonment. The share price fell very quickly. Even if the market opened high and high, the Yuan family's shares were still lying on the floor, motionless. Jiang Zhao felt that he wasn't despicable. At least the methods he used were open and above-board. He only dug out the Yuan family's internal affairs for everyone to see. He went through the proper channels and wasn't as despicable as Yuan Shichang. Moreover, if he didn't do this, his grandfather and grandfather would have taken action. The whole thing had been tacitly approved by the two elders in his family. He was also doing this for the sake of the two elders' physical and mental health. He didn't want them to tire themselves when they took action. He was being filial. A wealthy family was suddenly burdened with debt. However, yesterday's prosperity was gone, leaving behind a desolate land. Zhou Yan had always known about the relationship between Zhou Li and Yuan Shichang, but she had never exposed it. Yuan Shichang was too domineering. Back then, it was because Zhou Li married Yun Hongwei that he married her in a fit of anger. She knew that there was no love in this marriage, but she still swallowed her anger and loved that man. Now that there was nothing left, and the man was gone, all the resentment and anger in her heart accumulated. It all came to Zhou Li. The family's assets were seized. Zhou Yan was like Yi Er back then, renting a house outside. However, Zhou Li's house was still there. It was bought by Yuan Shichang back then, and it was under Zhou Li's name. The more Zhou Yan thought about it, the angrier she became. That Ned man protected Zhou Li until the end and always left a way out for Zhou Li. She couldn't take it lying down. After Zhou Yan found Zhou Li's house, she pressed the doorbell. When Zhou Li opened the door, Zhou Yan rushed into the house with a pair of large scissors. Zhou Li looked at Zhou Yan's scissors and was so scared that she kept hiding. "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Zhou Yan rushed to Zhou Li's bedroom with the scissors. She pulled open the wardrobe and cut randomly. Zhou Li rushed over to stop her, but Zhou Yan picked up the scissors and wanted to stab her fiercely. Zhou Li's arm was cut open, and when she saw the scissors flying towards her again, she didn't dare to move forward. In an instant, the bedroom was filled with shredded clothes. Zhou Li shouted, "Stop cutting! Stop cutting! Stop cutting! These things were bought by Yuan Shichang for you, right? Don't you know about the couple's joint assets? I'm cutting these things now because I have the right to do so. Half of the money he spent on you is mine." Zhou Yan thought of something after cutting the clothes. She ran to the shoe-changing area at the door and pulled open the shoe cabinet. She didn't let go of any boots or sandals. In the end, not a single pair could be worn outside. Seeing that Zhou Li was too timid to stop her, Zhou Yan stood up and laughed. "You woman, I'll see what you'll do if you don't have good clothes and shoes to wear in the future." Zhou Yan was getting weirder and weirder. She held the scissors and slowly walked towards Zhou Li. Zhou Li timidly retreated. They were sisters, but they didn't look alike at all. One was more dignified, while the other was more beautiful. Zhou Yan wasn't beautiful, the beautiful one was Zhou Li. Zhou Li's personality didn't have Zhou Yan's arrogance. She was even a little timid. Women were gentle and made people want to protect them. Zhou Yan pressed on, and Zhou Li retreated in panic. Their expressions were completely different. Zhou Yan revealed her ferocious side. Zhou Li's legs went weak and she fell to the ground. Zhou Yan rushed over and rode on Zhou Li. She pressed her down and used the scissors in her hand to force Zhou Li's face. Zhou Li shook her head but couldn't break free. "Let go of me. Let go of me." When the scissors made a cut on Zhou Li's white face, Zhou Li screamed in pain. "Ah! My face, my face! Ah, ah! My face!" Zhou Yan looked at the blood on Zhou Li's face and laughed. "I told you to use this foxy face to seduce men. I'll see how you'll seduce men in the future. You won't have good clothes to wear, you won't have good shoes to wear. No man will want you. Come and see." Songshu 566. Chapter 681. The coolness of Haiqing in March was fading. The clouds above the moon were thinner than in winter. Yi Er was busy in the kitchen in her slippers and home clothes. Jiang Zhao was sitting at the dining table, waiting for dinner. He held a pile of reports in his hands and looked through them carefully. These were the accounts from the dance studio. He still didn't allow Yi Er to go out during this period. After he was investigated and found out that she had gone out to look for clues, he was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. His family must be crazy to do that, right? However, he felt that she seemed to have grown up a little and restrained a lot. That day when she picked him up, she didn't throw herself into his arms until the elders had left. She hugged him and cried bitterly. She touched him all over and asked, "Ah Zhao, have you eaten? Did they hit you? Did they starve you? Did they scare you? Why do I feel that you've lost a lot of weight?" Her tears were like a broken faucet. Looking at her like that, his heart really broke. She had not suffered any hardships during the investigation, but the question she asked made his heart ache. He pressed his thumb on her eyelids, and there seemed to be a puddle there. When he pressed on it, tears flowed out. "You're reading on novel full thanks. You're so silly. I'm not convicting you. It's just a normal interrogation. I've eaten and drunk well. I'm not skinny. I'll weigh myself for you later." Seeing that she was looking up at him in a daze, he hugged her tighter. He leaned down and whispered in her ear, "If you've really lost weight, those 2 kilograms of weight would have been lost when I missed you. You're so annoying. Why are you annoying me again? I just hate you. You hate me, but you're still concerned about whether I've been beaten or starved? I can't wait for you to be beaten and starved. If you're so hungry that you don't have any energy left, you won't say these things." "What did I say? Why are you like this now? Did you put honey on your mouth? Did I? I don't know. Try it. Try it and see if there's honey on it." He picked her up and placed her on the long dining table. His tongue entered her mouth, and she kissed him back even more passionately, saying, "I didn't taste it, I didn't taste it. Then let's try it a little longer. I've smeared honey all over my body. Hurry up and try it," he said as he unbuttoned his shirt. As Jiang Zhao thought about it, he laughed out loud. Now, he would help her look at the accounts every night and then watch her work on the solution. The next morning, he would draft the overall work and hand it over to her supervisor. His gaze fell on the report again. When the paper was spread out on the table, the pen in his hand wrote down the number where he had seen it. Then, he wrote down the number on another piece of white paper with a note of doubt. Over this period of time, he realized that Yi Er was not suitable for doing business. She was smart and quick-witted, but she was not ruthless enough. She was also not resolute enough when making decisions. Sometimes, she was afraid of offending others. She always felt that if her attitude towards her subordinates was bad, it would affect their mood. Moreover, she liked to let her emotions affect her decisions. It was easy to mix business and personal matters. To put it nicely, she valued relationships. To put it bluntly, she would not be able to achieve great things. Just like the incident with Zhengling. That day, she had wriggled out of his arms and swore that she would never let Zhengling off. Zhengling had caused her so much trouble. If she did not make Zhengling go to jail for the rest of his life, she would always have a knot in her heart. However, on the day that Zhengling was arrested, he confessed to what he had done. Yi Er was angry and wanted to see Zhengling to clarify things. He accompanied her. That day, Zhengling kept his head down and did not look at Yi Er. He only said, "Yi Er, I'm sorry. It's too light of a punishment. Don't come to see me in the future. I don't deserve to be seen by you." Yi Er grabbed his hand tightly and asked Zhengling in a trembling voice, "You didn't tell me when you were in trouble. Instead, you wanted to harm Jiang Zhao. Have you ever treated me as a friend?" Zhengling kept his head down, but both he and Yi Er could see the tears on Zhengling's face dripping down his legs. Zhengling's voice was sorrowful. He did not answer Yi Er. He sighed softly and said, "My mother has always said that I'm a good-for-nothing. She was always poor. After my father abandoned her, she became even poorer. She would hit me and scold me. There were many times when I wanted to kill her." Sigh, really, there were many times when I wanted to kill her. If it were anyone else, they would definitely be agitated when talking about killing someone. However, Jingling only sighed and used a regretful tone to describe it. She scolded me for being a good-for-nothing while sleeping with different men to earn money. Then she told me that she was very lucky at playing cards and that she could send me to an elite school. After I went to an elite school, I would find a rich man and I would never have to live a poor life again. When he and Yi Er heard this, they were both shocked. She told me to find a rich man while telling me that rich men were not reliable. She told me to find a reliable one and live a good life after marriage. She told me to go to a good school and get to know some powerful and influential people. She would be able to do twice the work with half the effort in the future. She would never be fooled by a playboy. She was very superficial, but she seemed to know everything. She kept lying to me, but there were a few times when I secretly stood outside the door and did not dare to enter the house. I heard her sleeping with another man inside. I hated her to the core. Really, I hated her so much. How could I have such a mother? When you helped me, she treated you like a bodhisattva. I was so happy because she rarely treated my friends so well. You were my best friend. She treated you well and always cooked your favorite dishes. But later on, your family declined. She did not allow me to interact with you, so I secretly interacted with you. When I wanted to help you, she scolded me. I really hated her to the core. How could I have such a mother? God was very unfair to me. When I wanted to repay her kindness, my mother scolded me every time. She said that I was an ingrate. I was already so old, but she still hit me. Even though I worked hard to earn money so that she could live a good life, she still called me an ingrate. She was very rude. I always scolded her viciously, saying that it was because of her that my father did not want her. Sigh, I hated her, but I also wanted to kill her. Really, sometimes I had forced delusions. I thought that she would suddenly die in a car accident. But when others told me to cut off her arms and legs, I felt that my sky was falling. I felt that I was so cheap. I hated her to the core, but I still wanted to save her. I sold the studio and the house. At first, I even hid it from Lu Qing, saying that I wanted to buy equipment. I cheated Lu Qing of his savings, but I did not have enough money. Lu Qing wanted me to call the police. I did not dare, I really did not dare. I did not dare to imagine how a person like my mother, such a rude and superficial person, would scold people with her hands on her hips. If she lost her limbs, what would she become? Even if she wanted to hit me, it would be impossible. Lu Qing persuaded me the whole night, but it was no use. He said that in a legal society, we had to call the police. But I could not take the risk. I thought about how I stood outside the door when I was young and listened to her negotiate with other men in the room. After a while, she would give me a large sum of money to pay for my school fees, saying that she had good luck. I thought about it and wanted to just cut off my arms and legs and give them to them. She really did not have a good life. Lu Qing and I treated me well, but my father did not treat her well for a single day. At least I was happy. I had friends, I had lovers. Yuan Shichang's condition was for me to send the fruit basket to your house. I knew that Jiang Zhao would lose his job, and I knew that you would be in pain. When you told me that day about your and Jiang Zhao's wedding photos, I knew that you would be in pain, but I still did it. Later on, Jingling did not speak. During this process, she did not sniff or wipe away her tears. She just let the liquid fall on her legs. In this way, her voice was always flat, but later on, the nasal sound became heavier and heavier. He did not see Zhang Ling's eyes, but he saw Yi Er's eyes. That pair of eyes that swore to skin Zhang Ling alive slowly lost their hatred. Zhang Ling was coerced into committing a crime, but because it involved the framing of a government official, 5 years was not a long time. But Yi Er said that she did not want to appeal. She even tried to persuade him. She said that people had to learn to forgive. Only by forgiving could they let go. Only by letting go would they not be in pain. She said that they should not be calculative in life. They should just live well in the future. How could he not know that her fallacious reasoning came from somewhere else? If it was an Ouyang Yen, if someone she did not have feelings for really harmed her, she probably would not forgive him even if he slashed her face with a knife. She was a double standard. A woman like her could not do business at all. She valued relationships too much and was too easily moved. Actually, it was also good. She valued relationships and did not want to do big things. It was his fortune to be his wife. Yi Er was wearing an apron and was still humming in the kitchen. He dipped his chopsticks into the soup and put them in his mouth. He smacked and looked at the soup pot proudly and gave it a thumbs up. He could imagine how delicious this soup was. He put down the pen in his hand, got up, and walked over to open the glass door of the kitchen. He hugged her from behind, bent his back, and rested his head on her shoulder. He stretched his neck and sniffed the smoke coming from the pot. "Honey, it smells so good. I'm hungry just by smelling it. Let's simmer for another half an hour. After that, we'll eat. I'll go and prepare some vegetables and stir-fry some vegetables." Yi Er dragged a burly man behind him to the sink. As he prepared the spinach, he threw it into a small basin in the sink. However, Jiang Zhao put his hand under her clothes and pressed his thin lips against her neck. His warm breath spilled all over. "I'll watch you prepare it." From her waist to her breasts, the man's hands were everywhere. "Really, hey, how am I going to prepare it if you're like this? Quickly stop and wait outside. You do yours, and I'll do mine. It's just a division of labor." "Ah." Yi Er tilted his head. "Division of labor? I'm cooking and you're molesting me. You have the nerve to call this division of labor? Don't turn around. We're by the window. What if the other party sees us?" Jiang Zhao, the man's fingers were all ready. His face was extremely red. Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 682. Zhou Li escaped from her house. Her heart was swallowed by endless fear. She felt that there were people all around her, and they were all holding large scissors to cut her face. When she left the house, she realized that her car keys were at home. Only then did she realize that she was wearing slippers. Only then did she realize that she did not have a single cent on her. But she did not dare to go back. She was afraid. She was afraid of the house that the man she loved had bought for her. There was a woman inside. She was the man's first wife, her sister, and the person who wanted to kill her. Zhou Li knew that her face was covered in blood. She had to run for her life, but she did not dare to call the police. She was afraid of trouble and was timid. She was afraid that others would say that she deserved it. They would say that she deserved it for stealing someone else's husband. Yes, Zhou Yan had said many times that it was her retribution. She ran out of the neighborhood. There were a few taxis waiting for passengers outside the neighborhood. The green lights on the roof made people excited. Zhou Li ran over and opened the door of the back seat. The driver was shocked when he saw her running into the car like a ghost. He saw the wound on her cheek and quickly asked, "Miss, did you meet a criminal? Do you want me to call the police for you?" Zhou Li's heart was beating wildly in fear, but in the end, she lied. She didn't even dare to look at the front row. Her voice trembled as she said, "No, I was scared by the cat just now. I was hanging on a tree branch." "Then where did Miss go?" Although the driver was doubtful, he did not ask again. "Where did she go?" Zhou Li suddenly felt so sad that she did not know what to do. Where did she go? She did not dare to go back to the south. There was no Hu Jinchang, no one to rely on. She did not know where to go. She suddenly realized that she had no one to rely on. At that time, she always felt that she only needed to stay with Hu Jinchang. She loved him and was willing to give up anything. As long as she could be with him, she did not care about anything. Hu Jinchang was very good to her. He listened to her every word, lived a life of luxury, and never neglected her. But now that Hu Jinchang had fallen, Zhou Yan wanted to kill her. After leaving the house, leaving Hu Jinchang, she suddenly realized that she had nowhere to go. Yi Er's shadow swayed in her mind, and the more it swayed, the clearer it became. Mom, 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 mom. Those shouts suddenly smashed into her eardrums like heavy thunder, shaking her so much that she almost lost her hearing. Miss, where are you going? Jolie leaned against the back of the seat in the front row, crying like a howl. As a noble lady, she had never cried like this before. She would either cry like a pear blossom in the rain to arouse people's pity, or bite her lip to show her dignity. The painted skin of the demons was plastered on her face and body. She was a noble lady, a woman standing beside Yuan Shichang. But now, the way she cried was no longer the woman who stood beside Yuan Shichang. She was now a woman who couldn't even afford to pay for a taxi. She wanted to get out of the car, but when she saw that the woman with messy hair was looking around anxiously, Jolie suddenly slapped the back of the front seat and said, "Driver, hurry up and drive." The 9th mansion. All right, 9th mansion. She stepped on the accelerator and safely left the scene. Jolie frequently looked back at the escape route and felt more and more miserable. Yi Er sat sideways on Jiang Zhao's lap, feeding him mouthful by mouthful. The long table in the dining room was not small. The two of them seemed empty, but because of the intimate atmosphere, it felt warm. She fed Jiang Zhao 2 mouthfuls, while Yi Er ate 1 mouthful. Jiang Zhao hugged Yi Er's waist, his legs swaying gently from side to side. The woman sat on his lap like she was sitting in a cradle. Jiang Zhao said he was too tired and didn't have the energy to eat. He was the one doing the work, so Yi Er was responsible for feeding him. In fact, in Yi Er's mind, she still hadn't changed from Jiang Zhao's personality. She only felt that he was a serious and reserved person. Perhaps it was because of the deep impression of him in the past that she fell into his trap every time he came out. It was impossible to guard against him. Working as a maid, Yi Er didn't have much resentment. Anyway, he ate whatever she put in his mouth. If Yi Er purposely covered his mouth with oil, he would put his mouth on her face and smear the oil all over her face. When the doorbell rang, Jiang Zhao had just taken a big bite. He didn't have time to swallow the food in his mouth before he felt a little irritated. Yi Er said, "I'll go open the door." "Don't go. If we don't go, they won't know we're at home. Don't let anyone disturb us." Jiang Zhao actually didn't like living with a big family. When Yun Hongwei was at home in the past, how could the two of them be so unscrupulously intimate like they were now? It wasn't easy to have such intimate tenderness. No matter what, he didn't want anyone to disturb them. Yi Er was about to respond, but the doorbell rang again. "What if it's something urgent?" "Stop fooling around. Then you have to serve me well tonight." Of course, Yi Er knew what Jiang Zhao meant by serving him well. "Okay. Go ahead." Yi Er wiped his face with a tissue. Jiang Zhao cleaned up the oil on his face and went to open the door with Yi Er. When they opened the door, both of them were shocked. Jolie lowered her head and said in a weak voice, "Yi Er, can you help me pay the taxi fare?" With the injuries on Jolie's face and the way her shoulders were lowered, Yi Er looked like he had been hit by a stick. Like a madman, he opened his mouth to speak but suddenly realized something. Yi Er said hesitantly, "Your face?" Jolie lifted her face. She looked so pitiful. Jiang Zhao handed a 100 yuan note to the man standing next to Jolie. The driver handed the change to Jiang Zhao. He didn't pay much attention to it, but he felt that Jiang Zhao looked familiar. He seemed to have seen him often, but he couldn't be sure. After the driver left, Yi Er said, "Come in." Jiang Zhao stepped aside and pulled Yi Er to the side. Jolie knew that Jiang Zhao hated her and didn't even call her mom anymore. But she had nowhere to go. Yi Er was her daughter, so this was the only place she could come. Yi Er knew that he had said a lot of heartless words to Jolie, including that he had nothing to do with her anymore. "What's wrong with your face?" Yi Er wanted to call her mom, but his mouth felt like he was chewing wax and couldn't say it. "Mom has nowhere else to go, Yi Er." Jolie had already changed into her slippers. Yi Er said, "Let's go to the hospital to treat your wounds first." Jolie nodded. "Okay." But Jiang Zhao asked, "Have you eaten?" Jolie said, "No." "Then let's eat together." Jolie really wanted to go to the hospital, but with Jiang Zhao like this, she didn't dare to make a request. Yi Er seemed to only listen to Jiang Zhao. Thinking about that day, she had rushed into Jiang Zhao's house and slapped him. At this moment, even if she minded the injury on her face, she didn't dare to go against Jiang Zhao. Jiang Zhao went into the kitchen and took a bowl. He turned on the rice cooker and filled Jolie's bowl with rice. He handed it to her and tried to make his tone as gentle as possible. "Yi Er made this. It tastes pretty good. Try it." If it were up to him, he wouldn't have let Jolie in at all. But Yi Er's face was stiff, and he was more upset than anyone else. Jiang Zhao and Yi Er sat on one side while Jolie sat opposite them. When he was filling Jolie's bowl with soup, Jiang Zhao said, "Yunyi made this. It tastes pretty good." She took a long time to boil the soup. During this period of spring, she was afraid that I would get angry, so she put a luohan fruit in it. There weren't many dishes. For Yi Er and Jiang Zhao, it was just a pot of soup with a meat dish and a vegetable dish. Usually, the two of them wouldn't be able to finish it, but it was just enough for Jolie. Attention, Hongcha 866. Chapter 683. Jiang Zhao introduced every dish to Jolie. As he did so, he was filled with an indescribable happiness. Jiang Zhao knew that his actions were despicable. He just wanted Jolie to feel uncomfortable. He wanted her to see what kind of life he and Yi Er were living. Jolie only dared to eat quietly. For the first time, she felt like she was living under someone else's roof. At night, Jiang Zhao took Jolie to the hospital to treat her wound. She had many requests, but the most important one was that there be no scars. Jiang Zhao smiled. "That's impossible. The wound on Yi Er's forehead wasn't this deep. There were still some scars, but it's okay. I don't think it will affect anything." Jolie looked at Yi Er with pitiful eyes. Yi Er then said to the doctor, "Treat it well. Try not to leave any scars." The doctor said, "It's impossible to not leave any scars. We can only use the laser again and again." "Yes," Jolie answered eagerly. When Jiang Zhao lowered his eyebrows, a trace of disdain flashed across his eyes. On the way back, Jolie said that she didn't have any clothes to change into. Her voice was very soft, but Jiang Zhao still heard it. The car stopped outside the mall, and they went to buy clothes for Jolie together. When Yi Er came back, his face was gloomy. The trunk was full of clothes that Jolie had picked out. Yi Er said a lot of things, but Jolie didn't listen. She said that she had to wear this and that. She bought cosmetics, skincare products, nail polish, and everything was branded. Jiang Zhao followed beside him and kept swiping his card. Yi Er felt that he had never spent Jiang Zhao's money so recklessly before. He really had the urge to kick the tires. When they reached home that night, they arranged for Jolie to stay in the guest room downstairs. Jiang Zhao was sullen after he went upstairs. To him, it was too disappointing. It wasn't that he didn't respect his elders, but he had always thought that he was a very competent and qualified junior. No matter who in the Yun family it was, he didn't let them down. It was true that his father-in-law was a burden to him, but at least his father-in-law knew how to conduct himself. He still hoped that Yi Er would live well, so he was willing to do some things. Si Jia had always been sensible and was always on Yi Er's side. Jolie? He couldn't figure out why he couldn't scold that woman. He wanted to scold her, but it definitely wasn't because of the money she spent today. Yi Er followed behind Jiang Zhao the whole time. She took his clothes and went to the bathroom to adjust the water temperature for him to take a bath. After taking a bath, Jiang Zhao was still unhappy, so he went to bed. Yi Er glanced at her and took her pajamas to take a shower. As the warm water splashed against his body, Yi Er saw the white mist rising around him. He was lost in thought. Find a stick to stand on. Everyone could tell that Jiang Zhao was unhappy today. He was unhappy all the way home, and the reason for his unhappiness was his mother, Zhou Li. Although she didn't have the ability to see through Jiang Zhao completely, at the very least, he was a person who treated his family very well. Whether it was the Jiang family, the Qin family, or the Yun family, as long as they were his family, he would do his best. But she could understand why he didn't like Zhou Li. Jiang Zhao felt a gust of cold air behind him. Then the woman's slender hands and soft body wrapped around him and pressed against him. "Hubby," Yi Er called out in a low voice. Jiang Zhao turned around and hugged Yi Er. "Why are you calling me so sweetly?" "Yeah, didn't you say that I would serve you well tonight? I'm fragrant after a bath. I'm here to let you do whatever you want to me," Yi Er said as she pretended to lower her head shyly. Look at her like this, really, but he liked it. He reached out and sucked her mouth. He kissed her more forcefully and rubbed her harder. Unlike today in the kitchen, the bed was a good place for him to do whatever he wanted. "You only know how to seduce me for no reason." "Yeah, you said that I'm a little fox. Shouldn't this be the time for me to cultivate? If I don't seduce you, who else should I seduce? I have to rely on sucking a man's essence to cultivate. Don't you know? Then you have to be careful. You have to think that you can do it for 80 years. Haha, just as Yi Er let out an unbridled laugh, the man slipped in along the way. Oh, after a round of passion. Yi Er leaned into Jiang Zhao's arms. "Ah, Zhao, I'll find a house for my mother tomorrow." "Why?" Yi Er's fingers circled the man's chest. "You and my mother don't get along. Living together will be tiring for her. She's also used to being free. I think you won't understand her behavior, so it's better if we don't live together." "Then what will she think? What if she doesn't agree?" "Huh? Yin Yi, Zhou Li won't agree to it. Look at the injury on her face today. Aren't you curious about why it happened? I think it's my aunt who did it." "You guessed it?" "Yes, if not, with my mother's personality, she will definitely come and complain." "This matter." Yi lowered her head, her voice was filled with a sense of inferiority. "It will have a bad impact on her." Jiang Zhao hugged Yi Er. "Her matters have nothing to do with you. You don't have to feel burdened. It's not good, you know. Don't always feel that you can't hold your head high in front of me because of her matters. If I care about those things, can we be together? Take it easy." "Yeah, I'll go look for a house tomorrow. If you're unhappy every day, it'll affect your work. Let's ask for her opinion first. It's good that we don't live together, but if she doesn't agree, she's your mother after all. Although she's heartless to you, legally, we have the obligation to support her." Actually, Jiang Zhao's words were the most heartless. Even if the matter was in the past, his mother's heartlessness to him would still make his chest feel stuffy and short of breath when it was mentioned. He nodded and agreed with Jiang Zhao's opinion. The next morning, Yi Er hung up the clothes that Jiang Zhao had ironed last night so that Jiang Zhao could wear them after his morning exercise and shower. The two of them each ran a treadmill. Yi Er was already used to being forced by Jiang Zhao to exercise with him every day. Since resistance was futile, he could only comply. The two of them showered and went downstairs. Yi Er had stuffed the porridge in the pot before his exercise. At this time, he only went downstairs to fry some eggs, make some bread, and make 2 side dishes. Breakfast was very simple, but Jiang Zhao was very satisfied. Although there weren't many types of breakfast, there were slight variations every day. It was a simple day, so it was pretty good. After all the breakfast was laid out and placed on the table, Yi Er went to call Zhou Li to eat. Zhou Li was sitting at the table in beautiful clothes. She was holding a bottle of bright nail polish in her hand. Looking at the porridge in front of her, the corner of her mouth twitched. The corner of her mouth twitched in disgust. "Is this all you're eating? It's really a simple meal. Yi Er was stunned. Simple meal? Jiang Zhao had never complained that she didn't do well. Jolie unscrewed the nail polish cap as she applied the porridge. A pungent smell filled the air, and one of her nails slowly turned bright red. Jiang Zhao frowned and tightened his grip on his chopsticks. The anger between his eyebrows rose higher and higher. Jolie raised her eyes and glanced at Jiang Zhao. She knew that Jiang Zhao always went along with Yi Er. She could tell when he bought her clothes yesterday. So at this time, she put on the attitude of a mother-in-law. When she spoke to Jiang Zhao, her tone carried a slight reprimand and a hint of mockery. Jiang Zhao, my daughter is only 19 years old. How can you bear to let her eat such things every day? If you don't want to eat out, you can have Haiyue restaurant deliver breakfast. You don't even want to invite a cook. You've got a good deal. You've got a wife, a nanny, and someone to sleep with. You eat so poorly all day long. You really know how to scheme. Bam! The bowl smashed on the table. Crash! The bowl on the table fell to the ground with a shattering sound. The porridge on the table splattered all over Jolie, Jiang Zhao. Yi Er grabbed Jiang Zhao, who had already stood up and his veins were throbbing. Ah Zhao! Jiang Zhao's face was like a metal mask. His arms were strong and powerful. With a flick, he shook Yi Er away. He raised his hand and pointed at Jolie, whose face was still covered in gauze and whose porridge was splattered. He was furious. If you can't *King enjoy this good fortune, then get lost. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 684. Jiang Zhao could not stand a woman like Jolie. Even if a woman wanted to paint her nails and flirt, there should be a time and place. It was early in the morning, and the location was at the dining table. But it was enough that he could tolerate these things. But what he could not tolerate was Jolie's disdain. The Jiang family had been strict since young. They never advocated extravagance and waste, and the Qin family was the same. They never thought that plain porridge and side dishes were coarse vegetables and bland rice. She even wanted Si Moon restaurant to deliver breakfast. Fine, fine. Everyone's requirements and standards were different. He did not insist. What was Yi Er? Be a nanny and sleep with him? He had never thought of having Yi Er be a nanny. The auntie at home was only in charge of the housework during the day because he did not go home for lunch. In the past, it was the auntie who cooked for his father-in-law. When he was at home at night, he naturally did not want to eat the auntie's cooking. But if Yi Er was unwilling, he would not force her. Be a nanny and sleep with him? Didn't she feel how harsh her words were? What did Yi Er become? Sleep with him? Was Yi Er a prostitute? Yi Er hugged Jiang Zhao and stroked his heaving chest. She shook her head and looked at him. Ah Zhao, don't be angry. I didn't take it seriously. I took it seriously. After Jiang Zhao pushed Yi Er away, he also pushed the chair away and went upstairs to change his clothes. Yi Er watched as Jiang Zhao disappeared around the corner of the stairs. Jolie, what are you doing? Yi Er could not call Jolie Mom in front of her. She already had a psychological barrier. In front of Jiang Zhao, she could still call her my mom, my mom. But looking at Jolie, she felt more like an old mother waiting on her. Her daughter. Yi Er, Jiang Zhao asked me to leave. Jolie walked shakily to Yi Er's side. She tugged on the apron that Yi Er was still wearing. When she heard Jiang Zhao tell her to get lost, her legs trembled. She didn't dare to leave. She didn't want to leave. She was afraid that she would meet Zhou Yan as soon as she went out. No one dared to come to Jiang Zhao's house to take her away. She couldn't leave this protective umbrella. All right, I'll look for a house for you during the day. Yi Er took a towel from the kitchen and wiped the porridge off the table. Then she went to the balcony to get a cloth to clean up the porridge. Jolie was afraid of brushing her own feet, so she took a few steps back and said fearfully, Yi Er, I'm not leaving. I want to stay with you guys. How are Jiang Zhao and I going to live with you if you live with us like this? Zhou Li looked at Yi Er's indifference and felt her heart clench. In the past, Yi Er always hoped that the family could be together, but now she wanted to chase her away. As for Yi Er, the blood relationship between mother and daughter could not be severed. No matter how detestable other people thought Zhou Li was, it could not change the fact that Zhou Li was her mother. There was a feeling that was hard to understand called empathy. But at this moment, she could feel Zheng Ling's pain. She also responded to her mother. At that time, Zheng Ling cried and said, Yi Er, do you know? I hate her to death. How can I have such a mother? I wanted to kill her several times, but... Yi Er lowered her head and wiped the floor. She gritted her teeth and thought angrily, how can I have such a mother? Yi Er, don't let mommy leave. Mommy has nowhere to go. Zhou Yan, I know you're afraid of hardship. I'll find you a neighborhood with a good environment and hire a cleaner for you. I can still take care of you now. Don't worry, I'll try my best to not let you suffer. But something like last night's shopping spree, I won't let it happen again. Yi Er raised her head and looked resolutely at Zhou Li, who had been standing far away from her. She threw the rag on the floor and stood up. Her hands were a little dirty and wet, so she wiped them on her apron and said seriously, ever since the Yun family fell, I've always split my money into two. Sometimes, I wish I could split it into 3 or 4. You can say that I'm useless and can't enjoy life, but I've never spent Jiang Zhao's money like that before. Whether he has money or not is one thing. So what if he has money? No one's money comes from nothing. Every penny he earns is hard work. If I can bear the family expenses, I won't have any objections if you want to buy those luxury items. But my dance studio has only been open for a few months. It's not like you don't know that. Do the math yourself. Last night, you alone spent more than 3 million yuan. Do you know how big of a sum 3 million yuan is? Do you need to buy so many clothes that cost 2 to 300,000 each? Do you think Jiang Zhao is a sucker? I can't buy more than 3 million worth of clothes and cosmetics in a year. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let Jiang Zhao shop last night. If I had only wanted to go with you, I wouldn't have bought those clothes for you. Zhou Li said anxiously, Mommy won't buy them in the future. I won't buy them, okay? I couldn't hold it in. I'll change in the future, okay? Tell Jiang Zhao that I won't do it again. Yi Er brushed away Zhou Li's hand that was tugging on her apron. Jiang Zhao doesn't care about your spending. I'm the one who cares about money. Your lifestyle and habits don't match his. If you live together, this kind of thing will definitely happen again. Don't you think what you said just now was unpleasant? What do you take me for? That's what Jiang Zhao cares about. Do you know that? Yi Er, I just don't want you to have a hard time. My breakfast is... Upon hearing Zhou Li's pitiful tone, Yi Er recalled the day her father was hospitalized. She sneered, your breakfast is all sent by Haiyue restaurant, right? In the past, at the Yun family, it was specially prepared by a Guangdong chef every day, right? That's how my father and Yuan Shichang treat you well, but that's not how Jiang Zhao and I live. He and I both like the way we live now, but you look down on it. If you really have a problem with breakfast, can't you tell me in private? Don't you know that I made breakfast? Jiang Zhao is treating me well now, so he's angry at you. Have you ever thought about what would happen if he doesn't treat me well and you ruined your own daughter's breakfast in front of your son-in-law? And is this kind of breakfast really that unbearable? Dad, Sijia, and the rest all said it was very good. Yi Er's voice became a little hazy with uncertainty. After hearing Zhou Li's words, she couldn't help but wonder if her family's praise of her cooking was false. What about Jiang Zhao? Could it be the same? At this moment, she felt a warmth on her back. Jiang Zhao had already changed into his suit. He hugged her from behind and put his mouth next to Yi Er's ear as if there was no one else around. I'm going to work. Go and do what we talked about last night. He pecked her cheek. Breakfast was delicious. I liked it a lot. Don't think too much. Yi Er's heart instantly warmed. After Jiang Zhao finished speaking, he didn't look at Zhou Li and sat down again. He picked up the bowl of porridge that Yi Er had just eaten and started eating with big bites along with the side dishes. After he finished eating the egg, he wrapped a piece of bread with side dishes and put it in his mouth to eat with big bites. This was the way he liked to eat carelessly. When they ate outside, Jiang Zhao would always be gentlemanly and elegantly savoring the food without leaving any crumbs at the corners of his mouth. But when he ate Yi Er's food at home, he always liked to eat with big bites. The way he ate showed how he liked it. Zhou Li watched as Jiang Zhao ate his breakfast in satisfaction and didn't dare to lean against the table. She felt that even though Jiang Zhao and Yi Er had laughed before, when they sat down to eat, there was a terrifying aura that kept people away. Jiang Zhao didn't call Yi Er to eat. He finished a few mouthfuls and went to work. No matter what Zhou Li promised Yi Er was determined to find a new house for Zhou Li. This was something she had decided on last night. Zhou Li was her mother. No matter how hateful she was, this blood relationship could not be severed. It was impossible to sever it. Jiang Zhao said that they had an obligation to support her. In fact, he was already very kind. What Zhou Li and Yuan Shichang did almost caused Jiang Zhao to never be able to recover. If Zhou Li had the slightest bit of conscience, she would have come to inform her. But she didn't. She couldn't ignore it. She couldn't force Jiang Zhao to live under the same roof as someone who wanted to harm her. Moreover, the hospital said that her father's condition had improved and that he was about to be discharged. If Zhou Li said something she shouldn't, her father wouldn't be able to withstand the slightest provocation. Jiang Zhao returned to the building. The secretary had been changed. Her name was Li Ran. She was the secretary of the deputy director of the city's public security bureau. This was considered skipping a grade. Li Ran had worked in the public security bureau for a long time. When she did things, she always had the mindset of a public security bureau detective. The things she did were very interesting. The reports she wrote also had the flavor of investigation and counter-investigation. Jiang Zhao felt that this young man would probably have to return to the Public Security Bureau to be an officer in the future. Otherwise, he would feel like a hero with no place to use his talents. Shen Kai sat on the sofa and drank the coffee made by Li Ran. However, he complained about Li Ran unkindly. Jiang Zhao, your current secretary really doesn't know the ways of the world at all. Really, I'm still a member of the Examination Institute, right? Even if I'm a Luo, I'm the only one who can investigate other people. No one else can investigate me. How dare he interrogate me? But I'm still not a Luo. I'm the biggest Luo in the procuratorate. Jiang Zhao was sitting opposite Shen Kai. He was fiddling with the tea set and brewing tea. When he heard Shen Kai was angered by Li Ran, he laughed. It's all because of Luo. Yes. It's still Luo. You're amazing. You're not Luo. You're just a mayor. Jiang Zhao raised his eyebrows and said provocatively. That's right. I have a higher rank than you. What should I do? Shen Kai was a loafer. Even in the mayor's office, he was still a loafer. Of course, the premise was that the mayor's secretary was not present, and the door was closed. Sometimes, a hooligan's words were like a robbery. It's good that you don't know what to do. Since you have a higher rank, then why don't you do something? What's in it for me? No matter if it was Jiang Zhao, Zhuang Yichen, or Shen Kai, or anyone else in this circle, they would not forget to add on. What's in it for me? No one is willing to help others if there is no equivalent exchange of benefits. This is the unspoken rule in this circle. Of course. I don't think I'm such an unscrupulous person. The smile on Jiang Zhao's face and eyebrows was faintly discernible. Let's talk about the benefits first. Robber. Huh. You're a hooligan. What qualifications do you have to call me a robber? Fine, fine, fine. I received a report from the front line. Ouyang Sheng had used his personal connections to approve a 200 million loan to Ouyang Sheng. What do you think of this condition? Jiang Zhao laughed. You have no conscience. Everyone knows you like Ouyang Yen. Shin Kai slanted his lips and gave a mischievous smile. Didn't you like her too? What did the movie say? Who hasn't liked two scumbags in their lifetime? Pfft. Jiang Zhao laughed and spat. If there's a scumbag, it's you. Haicheng's #1 hooligan. You have the nerve to call others scumbags. Jiang Zhao felt that although Shin Kai looked like a simple-minded hooligan, he was actually very clear about his own interests. When it came to women, it was true that he liked them, but he would put his own interests first. It seemed that he had never given up his own interests for the Ouyang Yen. If such a man was placed in ancient times, he would be the material of an emperor, right? He was heartless. But to say that Shin Kai was heartless, Jiang Zhao shook his head. What Shin Kai said next must have something to do with the Shin family. Sure enough, Shin Kai drank his coffee and leaned back. I heard that Grandfather Qin recently found a family for Feiyu. They plan to have a marriage alliance with Ji City's Pei family. Is that right? That's fast news. They've only been talking about this for a few days. Since the Qin family and the Pei family are going to be in-laws, things are easier to talk about. Oh. Yesterday, Shin Xian was playing in Ji City and beat up the young master of the Pei family. Sai, in Haicheng, the Shin family is also one of the top families. Shin Kai was annoyed. He wanted to light a cigarette, but after thinking about it, he gave up. Jiang Zhao nodded. Indeed, the Shin family was definitely one of the top families in Haicheng. Shin Xian, this girl, had become more and more troublesome in the past 2 years. She had the title of Haicheng's #1 beauty, but she didn't look like a well-bred young lady at all. No wonder a hooligan like Shin Kai was frowning so much. Shin Kai sighed. Now that the Pei family has detained her, it would be fine if she was in Haicheng. But in Ji City, the strong dragon can't suppress the local snake. My family's old master is so angry that he's about to vomit blood. Jiang Zhao looked at Shin Kai's melancholy expression. He really couldn't relate this to Shin Kai. Jiang Zhao's tea was already boiling. He smiled as he poured water into the teapot to wash the tea set. Are you still afraid that the Pei family will do anything to Shin Xian? The Pei family also knows the Shin family's status in Haicheng. They definitely won't do anything rash. Look at how anxious you are. Don't worry, they probably just want Xian to admit her mistake and apologize or something. Shin Kai rolled his eyes at Jiang Zhao. That's why people say that acne is the least worrisome when it's on someone else's face. If Fei Yu was detained today, I'll see if you can still smile. Jiang Zhao shook his head. Our Fei Yu has never hit anyone, so this kind of thing won't happen to Fei Yu. See, you always think that your sister is the best, right? Hearing you say this, I really want to beat you up. How about this? I'll immediately get Grandpa to contact the Pei family and bring Xian back. But I'll add one more condition. How about it? When Jiang Zhao spoke, it was as if he was brewing tea on the tea table, neither hurried nor slow. But when he looked at Shin Kai's gaze and smile, it was as if there was a needle hidden in the silk floss. Sigh. Shin Kai looked straight into Jiang Zhao's eyes and suddenly shook his head. Jiang Zhao, I'll tell you this now. If you can help me this time, as long as it's within my ability, I won't even frown. Come and see. Xinwu 799. Chapter 685. Jiang Zhao's heart skipped a beat. He felt that the situation was not as simple as it seemed. Is it that serious? Shin Kai heaved a sigh of relief. His brows furrowed tightly as he said solemnly, last night, Shin Xian was playing with her friends at a nightclub in Ji City. She had too much to drink and tried to hit him with a bottle. She hit the back of his head and he fainted. His condition is very serious now. Send someone to find out if he can leave the ICU. It's unknown. There's a 90% chance that he will become a vegetable. Oh my god. Jiang Zhao frowned as well. No wonder Shen Kai looked like this. Something that could make this loafer so serious was indeed not a small matter. What's wrong with little Xian now? She dares to cause trouble everywhere? Shen Kai couldn't drink any more coffee. He placed the cup on the coffee table and said angrily, "It's all because she didn't want to marry into the Han family. She wanted to ruin her reputation. Now she's causing trouble in City G. She's so far away from the emperor." Jiang Zhao couldn't continue brewing his tea anymore. He leaned back. This matter wasn't something that anyone could interfere in. No wonder. If she had really hit one person, the two big families would not have made things ugly. They would have just apologized and the matter would have been settled. However, she had hurt him to this extent. Ji City was located in the south. It was as famous as the Jiang family in the east. It was a rich family that no one dared to offend. Shen Xian had beaten young Master Pei into a vegetable. The Pei family would not let this matter rest. This was no longer a matter of how high the heavens were and how far the earth was. Did the Pei family reveal how they are going to deal with this matter? At this time, Jiang Zhao no longer dared to rashly raise any conditions. Some businesses really couldn't be accepted just because he said so. At this time, Shen Kai finally couldn't take it anymore. He took out a cigarette, picked it up and showed it to Jiang Zhao. There was an ashtray and a lighter on Jiang Zhao's coffee table. He pointed at the lighter. Shen Kai took the lighter, lit the cigarette, took a puff, and exhaled the smoke. He gritted his teeth and said, "With such a serious injury, I'm afraid my little bastard will have to go to jail." Jiang Zhao repeated in a deep voice, "Jail?" "Yes, the Pei family doesn't agree to reconcile. Our old master has never lowered his head to anyone in his life. This time, he tried his best to put in a good word, but they didn't give him any face. But then again, if there's anyone to blame, it's that little rascal's fault for being too good at causing trouble. No matter who it is, it's impossible for them to just let it go, right?" Jiang Zhao nodded. "That's right. No matter who it is, they won't just let it go. Even if my grandfather comes forward, he might not be able to," Shen Kai said. "Now, we really need Grandpa Qin to be the peacemaker." After all, the Qin and Pei families intend to form a marriage alliance. Grandpa Qin said that no matter the cost, we can't let the little rascal go to jail. This isn't a matter of reputation. You know that we all have a hard life. We all have men as the boss, and the youngest is a girl. Jiang Zhao teased, "Are you saying that Grandpa Shen is biased?" "That's not it. I naturally dote on that little rascal as well. Although I'm angry at her for this matter, it's already happened. What else can we do? Also, the incident at the nightclub can't be blamed entirely on that little rascal. Everyone should be at fault at the start. Sigh, the more I talk about this, the more I feel like I'm trying to make excuses for that girl. Sigh, let's not talk about it. You won't understand how I feel." "Why wouldn't I understand? Who doesn't protect their children? Who doesn't want to defend their children when something happens to them? No one is a saint, isn't that right? How can my grandfather be the peacemaker?" Shen Kai didn't speak for a long time until he finished his cigarette. "You know that Shen Xian has an engagement with the Han family. It's not very good for us to take the initiative to break off the engagement. I want Grandpa Qin to come forward and mediate the situation. Now that Xian is in trouble, isn't it better to have the Han family to back her up? Breaking off the engagement at this juncture?" Jiang Zhao had just finished speaking when he saw Shen Kai's eyes turn red for the first time. Shen Kai raised his head and looked. He looked up. He calmed himself down and looked at Jiang Zhao again. "Old master means that as long as that little rascal doesn't go to jail, we'll think of a solution in the future. There's a 90% chance that Boss Pei will be in a vegetative state now, but..." Shen Kai pressed the cigarette in his hand heavily into the ashtray and rolled it repeatedly with unusual force. A little cigarette but was enough to make his joints turn white. His hand and lips were trembling, but he didn't look at Jiang Zhao. Old master said to negotiate with the Pei family for that little rascal to marry over. Even if boss Pei is in a vegetative state for the rest of his life, the little rascal will take care of him for the rest of his life and give him 100 billion dowry. Jiang Zhao was shocked by Shinkai's words. Shinkai continued, the Pei family is in a fit of anger now. Old master is worried that they won't agree to a reconciliation even if that's the case. He's so anxious that he can't get out of bed. So, he sent me to talk to Grandpa Qin. I thought about it, and since we're of the same generation, I decided to sort this out with you first. I'm also in a mess now. After all, I don't know Grandpa Qin's temper. Do you think the Qin family can help with this matter? The old master can't even catch his breath now. If that little rascal goes to jail, I'm afraid the old master will have to hand it over to us. You know, my uncles and my father have 2 or 3 children in our family. Unfortunately, Shen Xian is the only one left. The old master can't bear to. Shinkai's sincerity was hard to come by. This touched Jiang Zhao very much. He gritted his teeth as he called Shinkai a little rascal. But the emotion and tone of his voice were all love that he wished he could protect under his wings. Shinkai was right. Acne on other people's faces was the least worrisome. If this matter happened to Feiyu, it would worry the family to death. Grandfather would definitely be so angry that he couldn't get out of bed. I'll discuss it with grandfather. I really don't dare to ask for your benefits now. I'll give you an answer tonight. Hearing Jiang Zhao's words, Shinkai pushed his luck. Let's do it in the afternoon. Don't do it tonight. You wait until night. How can my days pass by so quickly? Okay. I'll call my grandfather immediately. But I can't promise you anything. I can only do my best. Shinkai stared at Jiang Zhao and slowly said solemnly, Jiang Zhao, if the Qin family can help resolve my sister's matter, Shinkai will treat you as a real brother. If you need my help in the future, don't hesitate to tell me. I, Shinkai, will not hesitate. Jiang Zhao was stunned. Then he slapped his thigh and said straightforwardly, okay. Yi Er's efficiency in finding a house was due to the fact that she had commissioned an agent. She had stated her requirements. Exquisite renovations, 40 to 60 square meters, 1 or 2 rooms were fine. Jolie complained that the apartment was too small. Yi Er was furious. Madame Zhou, an exquisitely renovated 40 square meter elevator apartment would cost 2,000 yuan in Haicheng. 60 square meter apartment would cost nearly 3,200 yuan. What more do you want? You live in such a big house. Can't you even let me stay in one? Yi Er controlled her temper. The more Jolie acted like this, the more she felt that renting a house was the right thing to do. If she lived with Jiang Zhao like this, Jiang Zhao would definitely be so disgusted that he wouldn't want to go home. The house I rented for you isn't bad. You can have whatever you want. It has furniture and appliances. The renovations aren't bad either. The houses I found for you are all renovated by landlords for you to live in. Others have lived in those houses before. You allow your father to live in 9th mansion, but you don't allow me to live there. Didn't you say that you wanted Si Jia and I would live with Dad? Isn't it natural for Dad to live with me? Then do you want Si Jia now? You can take care of Si Jia. You'll be responsible for his living expenses, school fees, and transportation. Jolie was immediately dumbfounded. I think I'll live alone. I don't have the ability to take care of Si Jia. Yi Er resisted the urge to scold her and turned to follow the agent. In the morning, Jolie's housing problem was quickly solved and she hired a cleaner to clean the house. Jolie was penniless. She lowered her head and said, Yi Er, Mom doesn't have money with her. Yi Er went to the rental house to get some cash. She knew that Jolie was a spendthrift. She had about 3,000 yuan left in her bag and gave it all to Jolie. Although the rent here is expensive, the surroundings are complete. There's a big supermarket at the intersection. You can buy some groceries to cook at home every day. Don't eat out all the time. It's expensive and unhygienic. I'll give you 3,000 yuan for living expenses every month. You can spend it sparingly. Zhou Li looked up in shock. 3,000 yuan? How can 3,000 yuan be enough? God! How am I supposed to live on 3,000 yuan? Yi Er really felt like crying. She hadn't called her mom for a long time. But now, she called her mom with dissatisfaction. I used to live in an old house with Si Jie for more than 8 years. We only spent about 600 yuan a month on groceries. And I spent so much because I had to give Si Jie more food every week when he came back. I usually buy 50 yuan worth of groceries and put them in the fridge for a week. Now, I'm letting you live in an apartment with an elevator. I'll pay for the rent and utilities. 3,000 yuan a month. How is that not enough? Yi Er, you're married to Jiang Zhao. Jiang Zhao lives in such a big house and is so rich. Why don't you ask him for more? 3,000 yuan isn't even enough to book a monthly card at the beauty salon, okay? Yi Er clenched her fists and held back her anger. She sneered and said, Ms. Zhou, Jiang Zhao is an idiot. That's why he married me. I'm an idiot. That's why I care about you. Then she turned around and left. Zhou Li heard Yi Er's voice getting farther and farther away. 3,000 yuan a month. Take it or leave it. If you don't want it, I won't send you any money next month. You have to figure it out yourself. Awesome novel. Xinwu 799. Chapter 686. Zhou Li chased after Yi Er anxiously. Yi Er, don't treat mom like this. After Yi Er was pulled, she turned around and sighed with her shoulders slumped. You also said that you're my mother. If it weren't for this gauze on your face, who would say that you look like my mother? You look just a few years older than me. Sometimes, I really want to say some hurtful words to you, but I can't. I hate that I've inherited Dad's genes in my blood. If only I had inherited your cold-blooded and heartless genes. Zhou Li slowly let go of Yi Er's hand. Yi Er, you said that mom is cold-blooded? Isn't that so? Yi Er pursed his lips. Other than Yuan Shichang, who do you have feelings for? My father? You don't, right? Me? You don't either. If you have feelings for Si Jie, why are you saying that you don't want him anymore? You're afraid that he'll drag you down, right? Other than your own comfort, who else have you thought about? Do you think that it's only right that Yuan Shichang protect you? Do you think that he should protect you since you've been with him for so many years? Mom, putting aside the matter of Jiang Zhao and Yuan Shichang, I think that Yuan Shichang is more humane than you. Really, at least in that situation, he didn't drag you down with him. He clearly knew that if he did, you would become his accomplice. As long as you helped him get a lighter sentence, he would have given you a lighter sentence. Gently, but he didn't do it, but you touch. But tell me honestly, have you ever been touched? Have you ever been touched from the bottom of your heart? Yi Er left with a hint of disdain. Zhou Li returned to her room with the 3,000 yuan that Yi Er had given her. She suddenly didn't know what to do. Whether it was with Yun Hongwei or Yuan Shichang, she had never been so tight on money as she was now. What could she do with 3,000 yuan? Yi Er said that she used to spend 600 yuan on groceries in the past, and that was only when Yuan Shichang was at home on weekends. And when she went out to eat with Yuan Shichang, she had to eat a steak that cost 2,000 yuan each. A cocktail made by a high-class bartender cost 700 to 800 yuan, not to mention an expensive glass of red wine, booking the entire theater for a movie. Yi Er said that her clothes and cosmetics cost less than 3 million yuan a year. However, if one day she wanted to shop, not to mention 3 million, if she bought jewelry, it would be more than 10 million. Yuan Shichang always said that he would buy her all the stars. As long as someone was willing to sell her, only the best things in the world were worthy of her. Yun Hongwei had also said this before. Touching the gauze on his face, how should he go on in the future? Jiang Zhao told Qin Rongfang about the Shen family over the phone. Originally, he planned to go back to the house to talk about it in detail at noon, but Qin Rongfang said that it was not good to go home during working hours, so he went to the building to find him. When Shen Kai heard that Qin Rongfang was coming over, he did not leave and kept waiting. Qin Rongfang was led into Jiang Zhao's office by Li Ran. Shen Kai bowed to Qin Rongfang politely. "Grandpa Qin, sorry to disturb you." Qin Rongfang patted Shen Kai's shoulder. "Kai Zi, this child is getting more and more pleasing to the eye, huh? Grandpa Qin, you're too kind. You've grown up. Huh, this kid has a sense of humor. I like him." Li Ran asked Qin Rongfang what kind of tea he would like to drink, and Qin Rongfang said that Jiang Zhao knows how to brew tea. Shen Kai said unhappily. "Li Ran, why didn't you check the household register?" Li Ran looked at his watch and did not beat around the bush. "Mr. Shen, the office in the building closes at 11:30 p.m. Those who look for Mayor Jiang at this time are all private matters, and it's not convenient for the secretary to ask." Jiang Zhao and Qin Rongfang both burst into laughter. Shen Kai was not in a good mood, but he only scolded him. "Idiot." After the three of them sat down, Qin Rongfang went straight to the point. "Kai Zi, that brat Xian really beat Boss Pei until he is in a vegetative state. Why didn't I hear old Pei mention this? It should be because everyone is rushing to the hospital. How can they be in the mood to talk about it?" Shen Kai actually understood why the Pei family wanted to detain Qin Rongfang. He just wanted to minimize the harm to his sister. Now that Qin Rongfang was so concerned about it, he told him the whole story. Qin Rongfang reached out to pinch the skin between his brows and rubbed it. His snow-white brows were furrowed. "Although our Qin family doesn't have much business dealings with your Shen family, old Shen and I have never stopped seeing each other. For old Shen to make such a decision, I can understand his heart-wrenching feeling. To be so angry, sigh. I'm afraid he can't wait to raise his walking stick and beat Xian to death." Shen Kai nodded solemnly. "Isn't that so? He keeps shouting at home that he wants to go to Ji City and beat that little bastard to death. The more he shouts, the more he can't catch his breath. Everyone at home is worried." Qin Rongfang said, "It's the same for anyone else. He keeps shouting about that troublemaker, but in his heart, he just wants his child to be safe. Otherwise, even if you put a knife to old Shen's neck and gave him 100 billion yuan, he wouldn't bear to marry Xian to a comatose person. This is simply the worst plan. But we don't have a good solution. If it was in Haicheng, we could think of something, but the Pei family's roots are in the south. We can't do anything. Even if we use our connections, it's impossible to overcome their local influence." Grandpa Qin knows that the Pei family's influence is similar to the Jiang family in the east. Not only are they rich and powerful, but they also have a complicated political background. If the Pei family refuses to reconcile and insists on making a fuss, we can't do anything at all. Qin Rongfang nodded as he listened. Shen Kai took over Jiang Zhao's job just now. He poured the tea and handed it to Qin Rongfang with both hands. This was how a well-mannered family taught the younger generation to serve tea to their elders. Qin Rongfang especially liked that the children of rich families inherited the old tradition. He always felt that the younger generation's attitude towards their elders determined a person's character. Even if an unfilial person could achieve great things, it would only be 30 years in the East, and 30 years later, it would be the West. Good qualities could be passed down to the next generation. Only with such children could the family's lintel shine. After drinking Shen Kai's tea, Qin Rongfang put the cup back on the table. "Kaizi, I know that old Shen asked you to come to me because you can make the decision. I'll definitely help if I can. Don't talk about this and that. It's like we're robbing a burning house." "Grandpa Qin, what are you talking about? I didn't think of that." Whether he thought of it or not, there was no need to say it too clearly. Everyone knew that there was no such thing as a free lunch. The Shin family and the Qin family didn't have much business dealings in the past, but they would in the future. I'll make a trip to Ji City tonight. You, Jiang Zhao, come with me. If Ruoxuan really marries over, our Qin family and the Shin family will be related relatives. Okay, thank you, Grandpa Qin. Jiang Zhao nodded. Grandpa, then I'll ask for leave. Qin Rongfang nodded in agreement. When Jiang Zhao asked for leave, he wanted to take Yi Er with him. Yi Er said no. Dad is still in the hospital. Yin Yi, let's hire 2 more nurses to take care of him for 2 days. Can't you go with me for 2 days? I'm going to Ji City with Grandpa this time. It's a tricky situation. Are you just going to watch your husband fight with others alone without anyone to take care of him? Jiang Zhao's tone was really pitiful. Yi Er finally gave up struggling. Then I'll arrange for the nurses. But you must come back on Friday night. No one will pick Sijia up. Don't worry. He really won't come back. There are so many people in the Qin family. You're just a 20-year-old girl. How can you be so thoughtful? Are you an old woman going through menopause? I'll go, okay? Okay, pack some clothes. I'll pick you up after work. Jiang Zhao went to pick Yi Er up after work. Yi Er heard from Jiang Zhao that the Pei family's matter was more difficult to deal with, so she didn't ask too much. She only listened to the conversation between the 3 men on the private plane and roughly understood the whole story. The housekeeper made tea for Qin Rongfang every once in a while, and the family doctor took his blood pressure from time to time. After getting off the plane, the airport was very crowded. There were people everywhere to pick them up. Even though they came out of the VIP passage, they could still feel the bustle of Ji City from the busy footsteps. Shinkai and Qin Rongfang walked in front and talked as they walked. Jiang Zhao held Yi Er's hand and walked behind. Yin Yi, I didn't bring you here for fun this time. I know. You want me to take care of you and Grandpa, right? I'll do my best. Don't worry. It's not that. Jiang Zhao brought Yi Er's hand to his lips and kissed it. Yin Yi, I wanted to bring you here to take a look at the negotiations between the big families. You might have a sense of superiority when you're in Haicheng. The Qin family's power, the Jiang family's power in the east, and my status will form a sense of superiority in your heart. But you have to remember that in this world, there will always be people who are better than you. You have to leave yourself some leeway when you do things. Shen Xian caused trouble this time, and the Shen family sacrificed at least half of their power to ensure her safety. Yi couldn't help but feel apprehensive. However, Jiang Zhao continued, if sacrificing half of the empire can protect her, then that's still fine. But you will see in a moment. For some clans, even if you offer up half of the empire, they might not even care about it. That's because they have their own powerful kingdoms. Perhaps even if grandfather were to personally make a move today and do his best, he might not succeed. So Yin Yi, now you should know why the Jiang family and the Qin family are so powerful, but they still use a mediocre education method instead of a tyrannical one, right? It's because if you walk by the river often, your shoes will inevitably get wet. Xian's mistake this time is enough for her to regret it for the rest of her life. Yi Er squeezed Jiang Zhao's hand. Her palms were sweaty. She stopped in her tracks and looked into Jiang Zhao's eyes. She said firmly, hubby, no matter what official you become in the future, I won't put on airs and offend people outside. I promise. Ha. Jiang Zhao held Yi Er's hand and brought it to his mouth again. He reached out and patted her head. I knew you were the best. Awesome novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 687. For a moment, Yi Er wanted to drown in Jiang Zhao's gaze. It was as soft as the morning sunlight with golden edges. She wanted to throw herself into his arms in public, but then she remembered her family's teachings, to be dignified and reserved. She held herself back and pouted. I'm so obedient. Is there a reward? Jiang Zhao bowed his head on Yi Er's neck and said in a hoarse voice, "Yes." When they arrived in City Ji, the car sent by the Pei family came to pick them up. It was a black and domineering nanny car. No sound could be seen from the outside. The driver opened the door for them politely. In order to show their respect for Qin Rongfang, the Pei family sent their eldest son, Pei Xianwen, to pick them up. It was his son, Pei Jincheng, who had an accident. They all knew the purpose of Qin Rongfang's trip. Pei Xianwen's attitude was a bit cold, but he was still respectful to Qin Rongfang. Jiang Zhao roughly described the Pei family to Yi Er on the plane. Their ancestors were officials in the Qing dynasty. At their peak, they had thousands of fields of grain and thousands of pawn shops. They were very rich. Later, when the country declined, the Pei family's foundation was restored due to the strict ancestral system. Instead, they became more and more prosperous in the troubled times. It was not until the domestic movement and the struggle for ownership of land that they truly declined. But the Pei family had always been business-minded. At the beginning of the domestic movement, they had been transferring their property abroad. Although a lot of it was later confiscated, it did not affect their slow rise after the private ownership of land. At that time, the ancestral house of the Pei family was very popular, but the damage was not serious. After the private ownership of land, the old master of the Pei family bought the ancestral house and renovated it. Jiang Zhao said that if he went back to Jiangzhou next time, he would take her to see Jiang Rui's snow garden. It was a large house left by the grandfather of the Wen family. It was built with various styles of villas according to the family's preferences. But Snow Garden was different from the ancestral house of the Pei family. The Pei family had a very ancient Chinese-style building. In Yi Er's mind, the ancestral house should be like the ancient yard of the Qin family. The Qin family's antique yard looked very rich at first glance. She always felt that there was a deep cultural heritage in it, as if everything was a cultural relic. But when she arrived at the ancestral house of the Pei family, she still gave it a fierce shock. Compared with the Pei family, the Qin family's facade was too low-key. There was a tall and majestic roof with a plaque hanging on the lintel. The words, Pei Residence, were written fiercely and majestically. The vermilion lacquer door looked like the ancient palace doors on TV. There was a bronze tiger ring on the door. The two stone lions at the entrance revealed their ferocious glints and were awe-inspiring. The bluestone steps went up layer by layer. After a few steps, there was a thick and wide doorsill that was about a foot high. This facade was much bigger than the Qin family's. Yi Er was startled for a moment. He felt that they weren't going to enter a mansion. Were they going to enter a prince's mansion or the imperial palace? The thick red lacquer door opened with a creak. A middle-aged man in his 40s nodded his head. His movements were slow, and he didn't seem too eager. He was just being polite, neither servile nor overbearing. Yi Er crossed the threshold and the middle-aged man said to Pei Xianwen, "Sir, old master said that he's waiting for guests in Qin Garden." Pei Xianwen said, "Prepare some snacks and tea. I'll bring them over." The middle-aged man retreated. "I'll go now." Yi Er knew that the Qin family had many rules. But seeing the way the servants of the Pei family spoke to their master, he suddenly felt that he had entered another Qin family. He felt tied up and extremely uncomfortable. Jiang Zhao didn't seem to be uncomfortable. He pulled on Yi Er's hand and asked in a low voice, "Do you know why grandfather wanted to arrange Fei Yu's marriage with the Pei family?" Yi Er didn't dare to speak too loudly, so she stretched her neck and leaned against Jiang Zhao's ear. She cupped her hands and whispered, "He's so rich." Jiang Zhao shook his head. Grandfather loves Fei Yu dearly. Even if it's a business marriage and he has to find a suitable match, he won't sacrifice Fei Yu for money. The Qin family doesn't lack money. Then why? Yi Er didn't understand. Jiang Zhao smiled faintly. The Pei family's upbringing is strict. Their children abide by the family rules. Grandfather feels that the children raised by such a family will know shame, know etiquette, respect the elders, protect the young, and not be licentious. He's afraid of marrying Fei Yu off to a hedonistic young master. I see. It was obvious that there were many rules. With so many rules, how could they not be strict? But grandfather's painstaking efforts, Fei Yu was so young. Would she be able to understand? They walked around the winding paths, corridors, and halls. Yi Er felt that this was indeed a palace. If this house wasn't made of green bricks and tiles, but red walls and gold tiles, it would definitely be the Forbidden City. They walked around Qin Garden for nearly 20 minutes before they arrived. Fortunately, the garden was ever-changing under the lights. The fragrance of the flowers filled their nostrils and the sound of the spring water made it not lonely. Otherwise, if they walked alone for so long at night, they would definitely be scared of ghosts. They stepped through the circular arch of Qin Garden, past the flower steps, and entered the main hall. An old man stood up from the main seat. He was dressed very similar to Qin Rongfang, but he was slightly chubbier. Although his hair was as white as Qin Rongfang's, it was cut very short. There seemed to be a layer of white snow on top of his head. This person was the old master of the Pei family, Pei Li. He clasped his hands together in front of Qin Rongyan, who had just entered. There was a string of prayer beads around his palms. His eyes were smiling. You've worked hard. Qin Rongfang also clasped his fists the moment he saw Pei Li. His eyes were also smiling. They were very familiar. Old friend, we meet again. Qin Rongfang let go of his clasped hands. The two old men shook hands. Pei Li pulled Qin Rongfang to the main seat beside him. Old Qin, you've come a long way. Have a seat first. Then he walked back to his seat and sat down. Qin Rongfang said, I was afraid to disturb you. What are you saying? I'm old and useless. Since you're here, let's talk about health. The two of them laughed heartily. Jiang Zhao, Yi Er, and Shen Kai stood in the main hall obediently, waiting for the old man to finish speaking. Pei Li looked and fiddled with the prayer beads in his hands. He raised his hand and pointed to the guest seat. Sit, sit. Thank you, Grandfather Pei. The three of them respectfully sat down and didn't speak anymore. Pei Li glanced at Shen Kai. His pupils constricted. He looked at Jiang Zhao and Yi Er, then turned to look at Qin Rongfang. He pretended to be angry. Are you bringing your grandson and granddaughter-in-law here to show off to me? Qin Rongfang rolled his eyes at Pei Li. What's there to show off for? When I invited you to Haicheng for the wedding banquet, you brought your family over to the country. I specially asked them to come over and serve you a cup of tea. At this moment, the servant came over with the teacups and teapot. Jiang Zhao pulled Yi Er up and walked to Pei Li. Grandfather Pei, this is my wife, Yun Yi Er. It's the first time I've brought her to see you. Grandfather, please bear with her if she doesn't know any better. With that said, he led Yi Er to bow to Pei Li. Yi Er's eyes were sharp. When he saw the servant put down the teacups, he took the teapot from the servant's hands. Just like in the Qin family, he filled the two teacups on the main seat with water. Then, he handed the teapot back to the servant. He gave the first cup of tea to Pei Li and smiled faintly. Grandfather Pei, have some tea. Okay. Haha. Pei Li took the teacup from Yi Er's hands and blew on the lid. Yi Er passed Qin Rongfang's tea over. Grandfather, have some tea. Pei Li looked at Yi Er and smiled at Qin Rongfang. You said you weren't here to show off. It would be strange if you weren't here to show off in front of me, someone who doesn't have a granddaughter-in-law. Look at your smug face. Qin Rongfang said, it's okay. You'll definitely have a granddaughter-in-law soon. Shen Kai knew that he couldn't go up and say anything at this time. Otherwise, he would ruin the atmosphere. However, it was a little awkward. It wasn't until Jiang Zhao turned around and gave him a look that he sat down and continued to wait. Old friend, you know that I'm here this time. Qin Rongfang took a sip and put down the teacup. Pei Li's smile finally couldn't disappear. It darkened. Old Qin, let's not talk about other things today. Granddaughter-in-law is here. Let's talk about something happy. Qin Rongfang gave Shinkai a look. Shinkai stood up and walked to the main hall. He bowed to Pei Li. Grandfather Pei, my sister didn't know how to cause trouble. Originally, my grandfather wanted to come personally to apologize, but he suddenly fell ill and couldn't come. My father is also overseas. He just received the news and is rushing over. Now, I'm the eldest brother in the family. I hope Grandfather Pei can forgive me. Shinkai bowed again. It was a very deep bow. Pei Li's fingers moved faster and faster. Seeing Shinkai's gaze become sharper and sharper, Yi Er was nervous about the atmosphere. He secretly wiped the sweat on his forehead. I think it's better to handle this matter impartially. Pei Li gritted his teeth as he said this. Shinkai's back trembled. He straightened up and looked at Pei Li earnestly. Grandfather Pei, the Shin family didn't educate Shin Xian well. We feel very guilty. Shin Xian should be punished for this matter, but she's still young. There are many opportunities for her to change. Since this mistake was caused by her, no matter what happens to Jincheng in the future, she should be the one to take care of him. The Shin family is willing to give a dowry of hundreds of billions to let Shin Xian marry Jincheng. Bastard. Pei Li slammed his hand on the table. The teacup on the table shook for a while. Hundreds of billions? My grandson is worth hundreds of billions? I don't want a single cent. I want to handle this impartially. At this moment, Qin Rongfang stood up and pulled Pei Li. He said to Shinkai, Yi Er, and Jiang Zhao, go to the courtyard. I want to talk to your grandfather Pei for a while. Don't disturb us. Jiang Zhao pulled Shinkai out of the door. Yi Er followed closely behind. When Shinkai reached the garden outside, he let out a long breath and looked at the moon in the sky. Jiang Zhao patted Shinkai's shoulder. Calm down for a while. Shinkai rubbed his temples. His lips trembled. I know. Once he thought about handling this matter impartially, Shinkai felt a chill down his spine. He didn't dare to think about the consequences. Shin Xian was still so young. What if she went to prison? When Qin Rongfang saw that the juniors had left, he pulled Pei Li to sit down. He said sincerely, old friend, don't be fierce with me. Let me say a few more words. If you don't feel comfortable, no matter who it is, they won't feel comfortable. But think about it. If that girl marries Jincheng and she takes care of him, won't she be punished even more? Moreover, in the future, we can think of a way to artificially inseminate that girl and give birth to a child for Jincheng. If this were to happen to other daughters of similar social status, I'm afraid no one would be willing. Pei Li looked at Qin Rongfang in disbelief. The resolute light in his eyes wavered for a moment. Awesome novel, Xinwu 799. Chapter 688. Shinkai, Jiang Zhao, and Yi Er stood in the garden for almost an hour. Later, a servant went out of Qin garden, but Qin Rongfang and Pei Li didn't come out from the main hall. It wasn't until a series of footsteps came from outside the arched door of Qin garden that the three of them looked in the direction of the sound. Shin Xian. You little bee asterisk starred. Yi Er heard Shinkai gritting his teeth and choking on his sobs. Then, his gaze fell on the woman who was being hugged by the three servants. Even though he knew that Shin Xian was the #1 beauty in Haicheng and had seen some blurry photos of her, he had never had a face-to-face interaction with her. Although Yi Er was also a woman and Shin Xian was a little messy at the moment, Yi Er was still stunned by her beauty. She had a thin sweater draped over her shoulders, and her long black hair reached the middle of her back. Skinny jeans wrapped around her long, straight legs, and a pair of shallow high-heeled silver spring shoes elongated the instep of her feet, making her legs look even longer. Her beautiful eyebrows were as soft as water, her nose was straight but not sharp, and her chin was small but not overly sharp. Her face was like a winter sweet that suddenly bloomed in the snowy north, a cluster of peonies that suddenly bloomed in a place where wildflowers covered the mountains, or a bunch of clear lotuses that suddenly appeared in a place filled with hibiscus. There was always a kind of beauty that stood out from the rest and immediately distinguished her from others. It was unforgettable. When Shenxian saw Shinkai, her eyes suddenly welled up with tears, and she suddenly had an urge to take pity on her. Because of Shenxian's beauty, Yi Er took a deep breath and glanced at Jiang Zhao beside him. Jiang Zhao's expression seemed normal. Shenxian pulled Shenxian into his arms and scolded fiercely, "You troublemaker, are you the F***king reincarnation of Sun Wukong? You won't stop until you poke a hole in the sky, will you?" When Shenxian entered Qin Garden, Yi Er did not notice that her eyes were red and swollen, which meant that she had not cried. But at this time, she fell into Shinkai's arms, tightly clutched the back of Shinkai's clothes, and burst into tears. She gasped for breath, as if she could not catch her breath. "Brother, brother, brother." Shenxian's heart clenched. His eyes were red as he freed his hands from Shenxian and slapped Shenxian's buttocks twice. "You little bastard." Shenxian cried even harder. "Brother, I killed someone, I killed someone." Shinkai was stunned. He shook Shenxian's shoulder and said, little girl, little girl." Shenxian looked at Shinkai with pain in her eyes. Her body trembled like a sieve. "Brother, I killed someone, I killed someone." Her 10 fingers were like water and scallions. She raised them in front of Shinkai and flipped them back and forth as if she was in a trance. "Brother, I just took that bottle and threw it at him. Brother, I didn't mean to. I just wanted to teach him a lesson. I just couldn't stand him. I didn't want to kill him." Shenxian was scared, guilty, panicked, and lost. All kinds of emotions hit her as if she was about to collapse. Her eyes were hazy and unfocused. "Brother, he just fell down in front of me. Brother, he is only 26 years old. He is still so young. His life is over. Brother, I killed someone. Brother, should I pay with my life?" Shinkai could not bear to scold her anymore. He grabbed Shenxian's hands tightly. Little girl, listen to me. He is seriously injured, Shenxian quivered. "He's not dead?" "No, then how is he? Will he be in danger?" "Brother, I can't sleep. When I close my eyes, I see that I killed someone. He falls down in front of me hundreds of times every day. Brother, he is only 26 years old." Shenxian had not cried since the moment she hurt Shinkai. She had been holding it in. But when she saw Shinkai, all her panic, uneasiness, guilt, and self-blame had a place to go. She was crying and pleading. It was as if she was a different person from her usual self. Yi Er thought that if she had a brother like Shinkai, how good would it be? How good would it be? Even if she was slapped countless times and called a little bastard countless times. Jiang Zhao's gaze did not fall on the Shin siblings like Yi Er. Instead, he looked into the hall. Pei Li looked at the scene in the courtyard. He clenched the prayer beads in his hands so tightly that his fingernails turned pale. Qin Rongfang stood at the side and sighed. Pei Li turned around and walked back to the main seat. Qin Rongfang followed him. If what that girl said is her true thoughts, it means that she is not a bad person. She knows how to feel guilty and knows that she has done something wrong. She is not like many children who only know how to ask their family members to think of ways to not go to jail. Pei Li did not want to think this way. But as Qin Rongfang said, if Jin Qing became a vegetable, his life would be over. Shen Xian was the murderer. She should take care of Jin Qing to atone for her crime. Qin Rongfang nodded. How old is she? I'm afraid she is scared out of her wits. How can she lie at this time? Yes. Pei Li said to the servant beside him, Shan, go and call them in. Everyone else in the hall was sitting in their seats. Shen Xian was the only one standing there. She was all alone, like a beautiful hibiscus flower with an unstable foundation that had bloomed on a bare mountain wall. When the wind blew, it would be uprooted or cut in half at the waist. Yi Er felt sympathy for her, but could only watch quietly. Jiang Zhao told her to watch more, to experience, to feel, and to understand. Eggmen followed. When Shen Xian threw the bottle at Pei Jincheng, she must not have thought that such a big thing would happen. It takes two to tango. If Shen Xian was really looking for trouble, her guilt today would be too fake. But if she was not, then Pei Jincheng should also be at fault. But Pei Jincheng also did not think that he would attract Shen Xian's bottle and become a vegetable. Endure everything? Not be angry? Not complain? Learn all these? Pei Li looked at Shen Xian, who had calmed down after leaving Shen Kai's arms. His tone was cold. Do you know that Jin Cheng is now a vegetable? I'm sorry. Shen Xian said in a low voice, I am willing to accept the punishment of the law. Shen Kai was so angry that he wanted to stand up immediately, but Jiang Zhao held him down. Pei Li frowned. He did not want to, but he still said it. If I asked you to take care of Jin Cheng for a lifetime, would you be willing? Shen Xian suddenly looked up. A lifetime? Yes, if I asked you to marry a vegetable to atone for your sins, would you be willing? Shen Xian only felt that her ears were buzzing, and the pictures in her mind were all over the place. She looked more and more dazed. Although she had not shed tears before, there were bloody teeth marks on her lips. She must have bitten them herself. At this time, she bit her lower lip again. She didn't know how to live with a person who had no feelings for her. However, this was a 26-year-old man who was so handsome that the women in the nightclub shrieked in shock. He was a high-spirited man with a prominent family background. Just because she didn't like what he said, she knocked him over with a bottle, ending his glorious life forever. Pei Li looked unhappy and snorted. You still don't want to? Jiang Zhao held Shen Kai's arm tightly, not allowing him to be agitated. Shen Xian looked up and fixed her eyes on Pei Li. There was no sorrow, no bitterness, and no compromise in her eyes. There was only a firm commitment. I'm willing. I'm willing to take care of him for a lifetime to make up for my mistakes. I'll work like a cow or a horse. I won't regret it. Shen Xian felt relieved. As long as Shen Xian did not go to jail, nothing mattered. Shen Xian's eyes were so clear and bright that Pei Li was momentarily moved. If it were not for Shen Xian's young age, he would have thought that this was a deliberate expression made by an experienced person. After Jiang Zhao and the others settled down in Flowing Water Garden, Pei Xianwen and Pei Li quarreled in Qin Garden. Dad! You don't care about our feelings at all. You let Jin Cheng's murderer marry him. You're stabbing a knife into my heart. Pei Xianwen supported himself on the table and could not stand steadily. Yes, he did not agree. He firmly disagreed. If he could not punish the murderer, he would not be satisfied even if he died. Pei Li fiddled with the prayer beads to stabilize his breathing. Xianwen, do you think I was willing to do this? It's not that I'm soft-hearted because I'm a Buddhist. I also want to seek justice for Jin Cheng, but, think about it yourself. Isn't Jin Cheng in the wrong? Pei Xianwen said angrily, the law doesn't care about that. Shen Xian should go to jail for causing Jin Cheng to end up like this. Pei Li retorted, let me tell you, even if Jin Cheng has to lie in bed for the rest of his life, he must have his own child. But think about it carefully. Jin Cheng has become a vegetable. I'm afraid that no family of equal social status will be willing to marry their daughter to him. All of this is caused by Shen Xian. She must complete the task of getting Jin Cheng pregnant. Pei Xianwen said angrily, I'm going to buy a daughter-in-law for Jin Cheng to undergo artificial insemination. I will never let Jin Cheng's murderer bear his child. Nonsense. What if something happens after you buy the daughter-in-law? Can the child not have a mother? Shen Xian can't. She must take care of Jin Cheng for the rest of his life. Pei Xianwen's voice finally lowered. Won't anything happen if she takes care of Jin Cheng? What if she She won't. That child isn't that bad. Dad, you're too soft-hearted. Shen Xian curled up in Shen Kai's arms and slept. From the beginning, she was shivering, to becoming more and more stable. Shen Kai kept patting her back. His lips were already dry, but he was still saying, "It's okay, it's okay." Jiang Zhao saw that Shen Kai's door was ajar. He gently knocked, then pushed the door open and went in. He sighed softly, poured a glass of water, and handed it to Shen Kai, who was lying on the bed with his sister resting on his arm. Jiang Zhao watched as Shen Kai raised his head and drank the glass of water. Then, he handed the glass back to him. If Shen Xian hadn't gotten into this situation, I wouldn't have known that you're such an anxious person. Jiang Zhao smiled bitterly. I actually hope that you'll never know that I'm such an anxious person. I only have one sister. What can I do? Shen Kai's voice was very soft. If I had known that this would happen, I wouldn't have doted on her since she was young. I would have beaten her up since she was young. Then, she wouldn't have dared to cause trouble. Thinking about how his sister was going to marry a vegetable, Shen Kai could only swallow his words. He looked at Jiang Zhao, who was still looking for him at such a late hour. This time, when we go back to High City, I'll search for the family Ouyang's information and give it to you as soon as possible. I won't leave out anything. Awesome novel. Hongcha 866. Chapter 689. Jiang Zhao smiled embarrassedly. Looking at how you're working so hard for Shen Xian, why do I feel like I'm taking advantage of her when she's down? How can that be the same? Shen Xian is my sister. The Shen family owes her a favor. I can't possibly not repay it. Shen Xian wanted to pull his arm out and let Shen Xian sleep on her own. However, when he moved, Shen Xian couldn't help but be startled. Then, in a daze, she reached out and grabbed onto his clothes tightly. Jiang Zhao pressed his palms together. Don't move. This girl was so scared that she couldn't sleep last night. She only dares to sleep now that you're by her side. This matter isn't entirely due to my grandfather's efforts. The conditions you offered were indeed good. Grandfather Pei is also a thoughtful person. He didn't make such a decision to give anyone face. If he wasn't willing, I think that even if we talked our heads off, it wouldn't have worked. Jiang Zhao, you're always like this. You make it sound like you're advocating for the greater good. In the end, I still have to give you what you deserve. It's not wrong to say that you're a fox. You flatter me. There are many foxes in Haicheng. I'm just an inconspicuous one. Jiang Zhao looked at Shen Xian and laughed softly. He simply sat down on a chair and started chatting with Shen Kai. You're too humble. Shen Kai wasn't in the mood to joke. Sigh. Anyway, I'll give you all the information on the family Ouyang when we get back. You can do it yourself. I'm not in the mood to think about other things. I know how you feel. It's fine as long as the Han family is appeased. Shen Kai sighed. Sigh. I'm just afraid that it won't be enough. That little brat from the Han family likes our little rascal so much that he's crazy. Otherwise, he would have broken off the engagement long ago. It's just that Han Qiang refuses. Otherwise, that little rascal wouldn't have been causing trouble and trying to ruin his reputation. Han Qiang is pretty good. Why does Shen Xian look down on him? Jiang Zhao was puzzled. The corner of Shen Kai's mouth twitched speechlessly. You don't know? She said that Han Qiang was too good-looking, with a pair of peach blossom eyes that seduced women. He actually attracted flies, and when he got married in the future, he would definitely be a playboy. In the end, she didn't like the mediocre ones. In short, she didn't like them. She said she didn't like them. Jiang Zhao only said one word, go ahead. If I didn't do it, would this have happened? Now, she still has to marry a good-looking man. Moreover, it's a good-looking man who can't move in bed. Now that she's married, such a man will be honest. It's impossible for him to go out and seduce women. It's really worry-free. Shinkai shook his head and smiled bitterly. If it weren't for Shinxian's situation, I would have been amused by your words. You're really something. There's no other way. I'll get you a glass of water and put it on your bedside table. If you want to drink it later, you can get it yourself. Thank you. Pei Jincheng's mother, Ji Rong, was a traditional woman. She didn't participate in the family's decision-making, but she still couldn't accept the fact that her son was in a vegetative state. Her attitude was the same as Pei Xinwen's. She couldn't accept Shinxian marrying into the Pei family. Father, tell me, is it because of the dowry? Is it because our Pei family swallowed it down our throat worth that much money? Pei Li looked at his eldest daughter-in-law. After a long while, he closed his eyes and sat motionlessly on the main seat. However, the prayer beads in his hand were moving very quickly. When he moved the prayer beads, they seemed to be trembling because of the speed. After a while, Pei Li opened his mouth faintly. His voice wasn't loud, but it was soul-stirring. I'm not dead yet. In this family, I still have the final say, and I must have the final say. I've made this decision, and it's not to be refuted or disobeyed. You just need to carry it out. You don't need to ask for the reason, and I don't need to give you any explanation. When Jinsheng's health indicators are stable, pick a good day and hold a grand wedding. Ji Rong collapsed weakly in Pei Xinwen's arms. She looked at the old man who was still counting prayer beads with his eyes closed. She covered her mouth and didn't dare to cry out loud. The next morning after breakfast, they accompanied the Pei family to the hospital to see Pei Jinsheng. There was a large glass wall outside the ICU ward. Yi Er stood beside Jiang Zhao. She just couldn't believe it. In fact, she couldn't see what the man inside looked like. However, the tubes all over his body made her feel sad. She hated places like the hospital. It was a place where people were sent back and forth from the gates of hell. Shinxian stood quietly in front of the glass. She placed her hand on the glass and looked at the man lying motionless on the bed. Shinxian patted her gently on the shoulder. Shinxian sniffled almost inaudibly. Brother, did you see that? Actually, he and I don't have any deep hatred. We're not close. His originally brilliant life was ruined by my hands. Brother, I regret it very much, really. I owe him, and I can't repay him in this lifetime. I also owe the Pei family, and I can't repay them. Shin Kai's back stiffened. Shin Xian spoke slowly and calmly. Brother, don't be sad. I didn't feel wronged at all. This is what I deserve. Shin Kai took a shaky breath and turned around. His sister's tone made him have an impulse to go crazy. Shin Xian came from a good family and was beautiful. Everyone held her in high regard. She was the only daughter in the family. As a result, her temper was very strong. Usually, she didn't know how to think for others and did what she wanted to do. The Han family's marriage alliance was something that happened when she was young. Ever since she became sensible, she had been making a fuss about breaking off the engagement. She had never cared about the awkwardness of it. The last time Ouyang Yen came to look for him, he even said that Ouyang Yen was the one who dumped Jiang Zhao, so why was she being so arrogant now? Thinking about it, she was really as annoying as Ouyang Yen. Shin Xian was also not easy to deal with. She was unhappy and wanted to break off the engagement. She didn't care about the family matters at all. These 2 years, she made more and more trouble, and he followed behind her to clean up the mess. Now, he felt that Ouyang Yen was annoying. But even if Shin Xian did the same thing, he couldn't hate her. He only felt sorry for her. After all, acne on other people's faces didn't make people worry. Only when needles pricked one's body did they know the pain. He remembered that a reporter asked a celebrity what kind of partner she wanted. The celebrity said that it was a man who could move. A man who couldn't even move on the bed, could he still be called a man? Shin Kai felt a ball of fire burning in his heart. His ears were filled with Shin Xian's comforting words. Brother, don't be sad. I didn't feel wronged at all. This is what I deserve. Damn, she finally grew up. She finally knew that her mistakes made her family sad. But the price was too damn high. Paley was a person who had killed his way through the ups and downs of the business world. In his early years, he was still a little vicious. When he was 50 years old, he realized that his shortcomings were too obvious. So, he concentrated on studying Buddhism and cultivating his mind. So, after 50 years old, although his methods were not as fast and ruthless as when he was young, there was still strength in his softness. In the Qin family, Qin Rongfang had already given power to Qin Fian. He slowly handed over his own things to his grandson. It was different from the Qin family. The Pei family was like a kingdom in the south. The supreme king held great power, and his decisions on major matters were never disrupted by others. That king was Pei Li. He was slightly fat and dressed in Chinese clothes. The roots of his hair were very light, as if covered with a layer of snowflakes. He held the Buddha beads and fiddled with them gently. He looked kind and low-key. But at this time, he was staring at Shen Xian with a sharp gaze. Among the people present, only Qin Rongfang noticed his complicated gaze. Before they walked out of the hospital, Pei Li called out to Shen Xian. Shen Xian was like a child who had made a mistake. She put away her original sharpness and stood respectfully in front of Pei Li. Although Jinsheng is now in a vegetative state, from the moment you married into the Pei family, you are no longer Miss Shen of the Shen family. You are the daughter-in-law of the Pei family. Everything that originally belonged to Jinsheng should be taken care of by you. This is your responsibility and obligation. Do you understand? Shen Xian raised her head and clenched her fists tightly. She looked at the old man who was fiddling with the Buddha beads. She was afraid, but she nodded firmly. I will do my best. I hope grandfather will nurture me. If I do anything wrong, I hope grandfather will forgive me. Pei Li seemed to be satisfied. Okay. With a sound, he walked past Shen Xian and walked out. Shen Xian knew that from this moment on, her life was no longer surnamed Shen. She wanted to live for someone else. When she lowered her head, 2 drops of water fell on the floor. It was like a big splash. She raised her hand to wipe her eyes and walked out resolutely. Yi Er and Jiang Zhao returned to Haicheng. Both of them were immersed in their own work. Jiang Zhao had asked Chua how to use his connections to find a retired soldier to be Yi Er's bodyguard. He couldn't stop Yi Er from working, but safety was the most important thing. Yi Er had to work. She had to work. She couldn't always rely on Jiang Zhao. Now, her entire family was dependent on Jiang Zhao. To be honest, even if Jiang Zhao raised 20 more people, her family could still afford it. She knew that Jiang Zhao had 2 very profitable companies. This feeling was very strange. In the past, it wasn't very strong. Jiang Zhao liked to use the method of raising her to show his male chauvinism. However, after Zhou Li swiped more than 3 million yuan from her card, Yi Er was completely enraged. If Zhou Li had spent her own money, it would have been fine. However, it was all Jiang Zhao's money. Even if it was work, Yi Er still couldn't do without Jiang Zhao. She thought carefully about the business advice that Xiaoya had told her before. In the end, she told Jiang Zhao to find out if there were any talent shows. It would be best if it was a national Latin dance competition or a celebrities' national Latin dance competition. She needed a dance partner. This way, her dance studio could provide contestants and teachers. Anyway, her teachers were very qualified. They weren't just for show. If she could become famous, she could become a judge in the future. She could rely on her name to make a living. Jiang Zhao quickly found a program for her. However, it wasn't a provincial program. It was a city program. This way, the viewership ratings would only be limited to the province. However, since it was her first time in the industry, it was a very good treatment to be able to be listed on the TV station. When Yi Er was fully immersed in her work preparations, Jiang Zhao felt that Yi Er had suddenly come back to life. She wasn't dead like before. Instead, it was as if another layer of petals had bloomed. It was very dazzling. Seeing Yi Er like this, Jiang Zhao was a little touched. He then asked Qin Fian to come to his office. Fian, in another 4 months, you should invest in a program at the provincial TV station. It's the same as the Dance Forest, that TV station 2 is doing now. It's not convenient for me to do it personally. I'll pay for it. Let Yunyi bring her people to participate first. Of course, the champion must be guaranteed to be Yunyi. After 2 rounds of this, she can become a judge in the future and raise her status. Brother, I realize that this method is a little similar to how Qiu Shaoye became famous. Qin Fian sat on Jiang Zhao's desk and smiled mischievously. Why did you mention Shaoye? There were so many ways to become famous. Only Qiu Shaoye was allowed to use that method to become famous. Moreover, he didn't think there was a problem. Qin Fian said meaningfully, Brother, you actually know that Qiu Shaoye is with Yichen, right? I only found out a while ago. He hid it for a long time. When I asked him, he didn't allow me to tell anyone. I don't know what he's thinking. Jiang Zhao glared at Qin Fian. I'm talking to you about serious matters now. I'm talking to you about serious matters too. Qin Fian turned sideways and looked at Jiang Zhao, who was going to get the file. He said earnestly, you have to know that sister-in-law is not Qiu Shaoye. Qiu Shaoye is Yichen's underground prostitute. Sister-in-law is your legitimate wife. You can't make sister-in-law the center of attention like Qiu Shaoye. Jiang Zhao felt that Qin Fian was really pedantic. He had thought it through now. Yi Er's fame wouldn't affect him much. Why not? Yunyi is still young. She wants to show her value. She feels that this process is very happy. I think she should take advantage of the enthusiasm now to pursue her dreams. Qin Fian's ability to add fuel to the fire was increasing day by day. And then? After she becomes famous, will you let people talk about your wife at tea parties and after meals? He snorted. Brother, you're not such a generous person. Let me tell you, when you go on those shows to dance, look at what those women are wearing. Latin, rumba, cha-cha, tango. Anyway, just look at them. When they spin in a circle, they're showing off their tights. They're even hugging your wife and spinning, lifting her up, hugging her. Qin Fian didn't see the change in Jiang Zhao's expression. His gaze became more and more uncomfortable. He continued, let me tell you, I didn't agree with sister-in-law opening this dance studio. But since she's already opened it, it doesn't matter if she's the boss. In fact, it's enough to make a little money. Don't think about making her famous. People in the arts like to say that they pursue the harmony of the soul. Just wait and see. If there's a spark between them while dancing, it'll be too late for you to cry. What nonsense are you talking about? Your sister-in-law is not that kind of woman. Don't add fuel to the fire. Jiang Zhao took the file and ignored Qin Fian. He simply sat on the sofa in the reception room and flipped through it slowly, leaving Qin Fian alone at the desk. You still don't believe me? Qin Fian wouldn't let go of a chance to make Jiang Zhao repent. Hey. He hurried to the reception area and sat on the sofa on the other side. Brother, don't blame me for not reminding you. Let me tell you, those duet groups, those pair figure skating groups, and don't even talk about those national dance groups. They're all in the name of pursuing art. On the road to pursuing art, they eat their partners into their stomachs. The people I'm talking about in this field are quite a lot of people who get married and have extramarital affairs, right? Beauty novel, Songshu 566. Chapter 690. Jiang Zhao did not say anything, but Qin Fian was very anxious. Don't talk about office romance. Love can develop over time, let alone a man and a woman hugging each other and doing some difficult moves. I asked you to hug a beautiful woman and practice dancing for a few hours every day. Try it. Don't you have any reaction at all? Fine, you don't have any reaction now. You have sister-in-law. Qin Fian deliberately helped Zhang Zhao. But what about before you had sister-in-law? Do you dare to pat your chest and say that you definitely wouldn't have any reaction? Let me tell you, in order to practice those wonderful dances, sometimes you need to do some difficult moves, such as throwing, lifting, or large spins. These are not things that can be done with skill alone. You have to put your life and safety in the other party's hands. This requires a lot of tacit understanding between partners. Brother, touch your conscience and tell me, are you willing to let sister-in-law reach that level of tacit understanding with another man? Even her life and safety in the hands of that man without any hesitation? This kind of competition takes 4 months at the municipal level, and the provincial level takes even longer. For such a long time, you let sister-in-law reach that level of tacit understanding with another man every day, and in the end, she became the champion. Can you really continue to watch? How could Zhang Zhao continue to watch the dossier? Watch my ass. His mood of wanting to create a blue sky for Yi Er was completely ruined. When he was talking to Yi Er, it was clearly an art to show the concept of beauty. Now, when it came out of Qin Fian's mouth, it became a filthy scene. He wavered. Brother, listen to me. You really can't make sister-in-law as famous as Xiaoya Qiu. Moreover, they are in different fields. Even if Xiaoya Qiu becomes famous, there won't be any male partners. That's why Yi Chen is willing to let her become famous and let her have her way. But how can sister-in-law do this kind of competition dance alone? You like to keep everything to yourself. If something really goes wrong in the future, you will definitely regret it. Qin Fian kindly advised again. Zhang Zhao rolled his eyes at him and looked down at the file in his hand. However, the words on the file had all been blurred out. It showed men and women hugging and dancing together. During the climax of the music, the man threw the woman up and spun her around. It was frightening to watch, as if the woman was going to be thrown out of the man's hands. However, the woman was calm and composed, as if she did not feel the danger at all. The two of them communicated silently with their eyes. The music came to an end. The two of them hugged each other tightly, their necks intertwined. The music paused for more than 10 seconds, and the two of them had to smile happily on the stage and hold hands to express their gratitude during the curtain call. When I receive the award, I have to thank my partner. He understands me very well. He was the one who accompanied me all the way here. When we trained together. In short, he said a lot of pretentious words. Jump my ass. Don't jump. There was no room for discussion. Yes, Fei Yan was right. He wouldn't be so generous as to give his wife to another man. Qingfeng Garden. Qiu Xiaoya sat obediently on the sofa, sneezing again and again. Her ears were burning. She wondered who missed her so much. Zhuang Yichen never expected that Xiaoya's parents would come to Qingfeng Garden even though it wasn't the weekend. Usually, he didn't come over during the weekend because father and mother Qiu would come over to help Qiu Xiaoya tidy up the house. Today, he was really cursed. He bumped into them just as he was about to leave. The few of them stood in the living room. Father Qiu was a little nervous. He didn't look at Zhuang Yichen. He felt that this man's aura was too strong and he wasn't used to it. Mother Qiu, on the other hand, looked at Zhuang Yichen carefully. Auntie. Boss Qiu's boyfriend? Mother Qiu asked directly. Zhuang Yichen looked a little awkward. Xiaoya scratched her head and interrupted, Mrs. Qiu, my colleague. I'm here to deliver a document. Zhuang Yichen nodded in agreement. He was still polite. Yes, I'm here to deliver a document to Xiao. Xiaoya. He was used to calling Qiu Xiaoyao by her nickname. It wasn't strange for him to call her by such a pretentious nickname. Oh, I see. Mother Qiu looked at Zhuang Yichen and sneered. She slyly pretended not to understand and asked, how come I didn't know that Xiaoya is working at Xingchen International now? She's the CEO's secretary now? But President Zhuang is much better looking than the picture on the cover of the finance magazine. After the compliment, her eyes shone with satisfaction. Xiaoya looked up and sighed. Oh no, Mrs. Chiu had taken a liking to Zhuang Yichen. Mrs. Chiu's research scope was too broad. She actually read finance magazines. Was she looking for inspirational stories again? Zhuang Yichen was stunned for half a second before he came back to his senses. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Xingchen International also wants to enter the clothing industry. They want to invite Xiaoya to join them. President Zhuang, are you close to Xiaoya? Mother Chiu was a cunning old fox. Or should I call her Miss Chiu or something? Xiaoya? That's quite close. When it came to business, one had to deal with whatever came their way. However, Zhuang Yichen was not prepared for such a situation. He wanted to put aside his pride and ask Xiaoya for help. Xiaoya seemed to understand and pulled Mother Chiu to sit on the sofa. Mom, it's not like you don't know that I do private customization. The clothes I make are all for people like President Zhuang. It's not strange that they know me for a long time. Oh, that's all? Mother Chiu looked at Zhuang Yichen again. Zhuang Yichen nodded. That's all. Oh. Oh, Mama Chiu said again, seemingly relieved. Zhuang Yichen was about to leave when Mama Chiu suddenly said to Xiaoya, your father and I are here today to drag you to the wedding. Married? Apart from Mother Chiu, everyone else in the room was stunned. Father Chiu was also stunned. However, he was sitting in an inconspicuous position and Mother Chiu's words had completely attracted Zhuang Yichen's attention. Therefore, he did not notice his sudden panic. Mother Chiu acted as though she did not see Zhuang Yichen. Since you are always looking down on this and that, I will make the decision. Xiaoya felt that she had 8 lifetimes of bad luck to have provoked such a difficult mother. She was not old, but her mother, who had nothing to do, actually racked her brains every day to find a man for her. Mom, I've said it before. I don't look like I lack a man. Mother Chiu comforted her calmly and said earnestly, Yanji, I told you that I look like I lack a son-in-law. I am in a huge debt now. Who would want me? Do you think I have hundreds of thousands of yuan? Do you think I can get it just by casually searching my bag? Mother Chiu suddenly said. Mother Chiu slapped her thigh. Hey, you don't say. I found you a man who patted his chest and promised to pay off your debt. A bald old man? Chiu Xiaoya only dared to think this way. Mother Chiu raised her eyebrows and described the man proudly. Young, tall, handsome and rich. Xiaoya smiled awkwardly. Mom, have you changed your career to writing romance novels? Mother Chiu gave Xiaoya a shove. Get lost. That was my dream when I was young. I don't have the energy to do that now. I have to worry about your marriage. Xiaoya thought to herself, you really dare to climb up just because you're given a vine. Mom, marriage is a big deal. You have to spend more time thinking about it. That's why I spent a lot of time thinking about it for you. I stayed up all night helping you research. It's not enough for a good man to just be rich. He has to be good looking. It's not enough to just be rich and good looking. He has to be cultured. It's not enough to just be rich and good looking. Xiaoya's shoulders drooped weakly as she raised her head and said, we have to have parents-in-law who are easy to get along with. It's not enough to be rich, good looking, and cultured. We have to be considerate, tolerant, filial, and romantic. After Xiaoya finished reciting, she looked dispirited and helpless. She looked like she was about to cry as she said, Mom, you should go and write. You'll definitely do something. Really, you'll definitely achieve more than worrying about your daughter's marriage. Zhuang Yichen wanted to turn around and leave because the people here obviously didn't care about him. He had always had a strong presence. However, after confirming that he wasn't Xiaoya's boyfriend, Mother Chiu didn't even look at him. Instead, she kept promoting other men to Xiaoya. As if rooted to the ground, Zhuang Yichen was in an awkward situation. He was afraid that he would be suspicious if he stayed any longer, so Zhuang Yichen said politely, Uncle, Auntie, I will leave first. Okay, okay, okay. Take care. Mother Chio's voice was full of enthusiasm. However, her eyes fell on Xiaoya and dropped another bomb. Hurry up and pack up. Ian has been waiting for too long. He said that you don't want to see him. He wants to marry you this time. If you say so, he will marry you immediately. He will help you pay off the debt. How is it? Young, right? Tall, right? Handsome, right? Rich, right? Not? Xiaoya's eyes suddenly widened. Her voice trembled. Mom. Don't joke around. Zhuang Yichen, who had just walked to the door, paused again. He heard Xiaoya's voice suddenly change in pitch. It suddenly rose and fell. In her incredulous tone, there was a strong sense of anticipation and unexpected loneliness. Kang Yun? Kang Yun proposed to Xiaoya. Last time in the wardrobe, he saw how Mother Chio wanted to marry Xiaoya off. He didn't think it was a joke. His hand that was already holding the door handle couldn't press it down. However, he held the door handle tightly. After he let go, he turned around and looked at Xiaoya. Xiaoya, what about your promise to attend the new company's meeting in an hour? Xiaoya looked up and saw Zhuang Yichen's pleasant face. However, her eyes were full of tyranny. How should she say it? This was a question with no choice. I will go right away. I will go when the proposal is ready. President Zhuang, I think the meeting should be delayed for half an hour. You can only focus on your work after this important matter is solved. Mother Chio smiled. She stood up and politely discussed with Zhuang Yichen. Zhuang Yichen stood there motionless. He didn't look like there was anything wrong with it. Instead, his outstanding temperament covered up his displeasure. Auntie, it's not right for more than a dozen people to wait for one person. Moreover, many of them came from other cities for the meeting. Some of them have already booked return tickets. If the company's interests are lost, I'm afraid that the interests of the employees will be affected in the future. Mother Chio lowered her head and thought for a while. When she looked up, she was still in a dilemma. Okay, you should hurry to the meeting. I will discuss it with Ian. Anyway, the Civil Affairs Bureau closes at 5:30. Go ahead. Don't delay your work. Zhuang Yichen's eyebrows twitched, but he still smiled like a gentleman. Xiaoya, follow me to the company. After the meeting, we can solve this important matter as soon as possible. Xiaoya could feel Zhuang Yichen's anger. Zhuang Yichen was not a very patient person. If he hid a knife behind his smile, it meant that she was going to be in trouble. As expected, the silver Bugatti shot out of the neighborhood like an arrow. Xiaoya sat upright in the assistant seat. Zhuang Yichen glanced at her. Aren't you going to explain to me? Xiaoya seemed to have suddenly come back to her senses. What? This B***starred woman actually didn't know what he was talking about. Was she blinded by the news of her marriage? Don't you need to explain to me about Kang Ian? Xiaoya spoke out of habit. Since when do I need to explain to you about my matters? When he stepped on the brakes, the car stopped by the roadside. Xiaoya rushed forward. Zhuang Yichen. Zhuang Yichen leaned over and pressed down on her. He opened his large palms and grabbed Xiaoya's butt between his thumb and index finger. He pinched it with 2 fingers and lifted it towards himself. He gritted his teeth and said, "Little demon Xiao, what kind of attitude is that when you talk to me?" Xiaoya frowned. Her mouth hurt, but she refused to admit defeat. What kind of attitude do you want? I asked you to explain to me about Kang Ian. She had been with him almost every day for the past few days. What was going on with her marriage with Kang Ian? When did Kang Ian go to look for her mother? Why did she suddenly have to register? She was too timing. She dared. I said I don't need to explain. Why should I explain to you? I won't explain to you. Good, good. Very good. Zhuang Yichen angrily opened the car door beside Xiaoya and released the seatbelt. Get out of the car. Xiaoya was stunned for a moment. Zhuang Yichen's slender eyes turned into blades. He was already sitting upright and shouted, Get out of the car. Xiaoya let out a long breath. She closed her eyes and opened them. She glared at Zhuang Yichen and pushed the car door open. Just as her feet touched the ground, Zhuang Yichen's voice sounded ruthlessly. Little demon Xiao, you'd better not provoke me. You can't afford to provoke me. You can settle Kang Ian's matter yourself. Otherwise, I won't let any of the scum related to you off. Xiaoya's back trembled. A gust of cold air froze her spine. When she clenched her fists, her breath was trembling. She turned around and glared at Zhuang Yichen. She gritted her teeth and said angrily, Zhuang Yichen, you're getting more and more involved now. You've really stretched your hands too far. We've already agreed not to interfere with each other's business. The man leaned back in his seat. The sunlight shone on him, and his handsome face was sharp. His eyes were cold as he looked at the traffic coming and going in front of him. He directly ignored Xiaoya's words of not interfering with each other and parting on good terms. He sneered coldly, with a spirit that looked down on everything. Oh, my hands are long. I can stretch them as long as I want. What can you do? What can Kang Ian do? Xiaoya suddenly regretted. Why did she think that Zhuang Yichen was a good prostitute? Why did she think that he was a good person? He was a bastard. Beauty novel, Xinwu 799. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.